What are you laughing about, Josh? What's so funny?
I'm laughing about baseball because it's back.
Baseball. Very funny. That's what you're laughing about.
Baseball is much like Broadway insofar as it is back.
Yeah. They had to cancel a couple baseball games last night because the projections weren't working.
That's true.
Definitely not because someone has COVID.
But no, I'm very excited.
It was the projectionist. The projectionist has COVID.
The World Baseball Classic is underway. So far, there have been a couple games. There was a very exciting upset. Venezuela beat the Dominican Republic. Nobody was really expecting that.
Sure.
And tonight, the USA is going to be...
congratulations to President of Venezuela, Juan Guaido, for the success of his country's baseball team.
Tonight, the USA is playing Mexico. I'm really excited about that.
So who's on the U.S. team? What is that?
So the USA baseball team is comprised of a bunch of Major League Baseball players. There's actually a couple Mets on the team.
Is it the All-Star team, or where do we pick this?
It's just like Team USA, basically.
It's a bunch of baseball players out in the woods in a cabin chopping wood, and a helicopter appears from out of nowhere, comes back down. They're like, we have to get you back in the game. He's like, I'm out of that game. And it's revealed that he's chopping a baseball bat.
Right.
Wait, is he chopping, like, instead of holding an axe, he's holding a baseball bat and using that
it just
to chop
shatters wood. It explodes underneath him.
And he, in this case, is Pete Alonso, first baseman for the New York Mets.
Yeah.
No, but it's exciting,
like,
because spring training is underway now.
Yeah.
So, the games are back on. Pix 11 is airing them sometimes, and SNY is airing some of them. And
sure.
I don't know. It just, for me, being back in baseball season again, it's just like, I love the fact that you can watch a game basically every single day. And the pitch clock changes have made the game already a lot more.
I didn't even know.
What is a pitch clock?
I used to be a pretty heavy baseball watcher back in my day.
Watch the D-backs or something? What was your team?
No, fuck that.
The Arizona Diamondbacks? Get the fuck out of here.
Not doing that.
No.
At all. Absolutely not. No.
God, I grew up with the Padres, and I'm like, the Diamondbacks?
You know, with football, at least, like, most people are going to split off to, like, Cowboys or Broncos.
Right.
Honestly, basketball, people tend to lean towards the Suns, even people who are as anti-Arizona as I am.
Sure.
Baseball, there isn't that sort of thing. Like, what are we going to root for? Colorado Rockies?
Yeah, no,
of course not.
The Rockies, poor Rockies.
Like, so
the Astros, I guess.
Everyone I knew was like into a different team, mostly based on like where their dad was from or whatever.
Oh, sure.
At some point, my brother was just a Cubs guy, so I became a Cubs guy. 2016 was a big year for me.
I feel like
that's it.
The Cubs are kind of like the Yankees. They're just one of those teams that they've got the heritage, they've got a truly national fan base.
Yeah. But the Yankees are the Yankees because of meritocracy.
Well, and
they
money.
win games.
Yeah.
And money. I mean, it's mostly
it's because
money.
they work hard.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast lauding the value of the Protestant work ethic. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brian. Let's go Yankees. Gotta love the Yankees.
Oh my God, no.
The stadium is right there.
No, I know. They can't hear you.
Yes, they can, and they have.
Look, as a San Diego boy who had to endure the 98 Yankees decimating the Padres, like, no. I'm with Josh. I'm a Mets boy all the way.
All those poor priests, they murdered them out on the field.
It was a massacre.
I don't know why they have literal priests on the team.
Look, Texas has Remember the Alamo, and San Diegans have Remember the Petco.
It's like one of those heritage things where they have to have at least one priest just to honor the tradition.
Yeah. And speaking of having one priest on the field, this week we're talking about The Last of Us, Naughty Dog's masterpiece.
Part 1!
Yeah.
The Last of Us Part 1!
No, we're not. None of us played The Last of Us Part 1.
technically
We played The Last of Us Remastered.
That's true.
Yeah, and then I did watch an entire playthrough of The Last of Us Part 1 just in case there was stuff that wasn't there. There's a couple neat little things, but for the most part, it's the same thing.
So, friends, we are, and by friends, I mean listeners. You're not actually our friends. just, I say that.
We do not have a relationship with you. You are not our friends.
Some of you are our friends, but that is coincidental.
Yeah, quite a few of you actually, on Patreon especially. We are recording on Sunday. This is what we always do. It is Sunday afternoon, which means that the finale of the TV show season 1 is not out. So we will not be talking about the finale of season 1. I will make some very, very wrong predictions, as I have been doing throughout this entire season of a show that is decidedly mid.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, too, we're not here to really talk about the TV show. We will bring it up in the context of the game, but our focus here is the game, The Last of Us, Naughty Dog Entertainment, 2013, originally released on the PlayStation 3. Originally, we wanted to play part 1, the re-release, which was supposed to come out on PC. Like, I was going to be able to play it on my PC
at the beginning of this month.
At the beginning of this
then
month,
they delayed it by another, 3 weeks. So
yeah, they fucked the dog.
They blew it.
So it was a real naughty dog that they had sex with.
And they had to put it down. So let's talk about...
That's my favorite no butt that we've done so far. And the dog is dead.
And the dog is now dead. So let's talk a little bit about Naughty Dog.
Just like those priests in San Diego.
Who do you think disposed of the bodies? So it was the Naughty Dogs.
It was Petco.
Oh, it was Petco.
That's what they do. They throw the bodies into the
fish tanks.
Yeah.
How do you think those fish get fed? So Naughty Dog...
Very carefully?
Very carefully. Naughty Dog was is the prestigious studio behind Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, and the Uncharted series.
Yep.
And they really made a name for themselves, obviously doing a lot more kids-based games.
Crash Bandicoot is really interesting, right? That started as the Sonic's Ass project. They wanted to...
The what?
It was called Sonic's Ass. The idea was 3D is coming in, right? We're going to make a platforming game just like Sonic the Hedgehog, but where you are behind Sonic. Where his tuchus is.
I see.
Yeah, so Sonic's ass.
And they came up with something that is much slower than a Sonic game and much better designed than any Sonic game. Crash Bandicoot, where
that's a hot take.
And you spent about 80% of the game in a loading screen.
Yep.
And then you got to play a level where you died 3 times, then you're in a loading screen again.
In fairness, that's the PlayStation experience, is to spend 80% of your time on a loading screen.
There's a really wonderful moment in Uncharted 4 where you actually play Crash Bandicoot in-game as Nathan Drake playing Crash Bandicoot, and he gets very upset with how difficult it is to play. And you revisit those games, it's real tough.
Yeah. So Jak and Daxter is also kind of an interesting inflection point in terms of experimentation. They were settled in. They were making other Crash games. They were making the first Jak and Daxter, which is a Banjo-Kazooie-esque.
Yes.
Right? It's a puzzle
collectathon. It's very kid-friendly, that
Yeah.
first game, yeah.
And then the second game, they're like, what if it's dark?
Yeah, it went the Prince of Persia route, where the first game's like fun and light, and the second game's like, no. Because God of War came out and like completely like revitalized the system, for at least in Prince of Persia's case. But the entire entertainment industry did seem, like video game industry, did seem to like turn towards the dark.
Yeah, we wanted to
during this
grow
time,
up.
but- Yeah, they had to be taken seriously. This was a medium for adults.
Roger Ebert was very mean to us.
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like that's always kind of been the thing with Sony's positioning in the console marketplace, too. They've always been, relatively speaking, more mature, right? Than Nintendo or Sega.
Right. That was why they called Crash Bandicoot Sonic's Ass. It was grown up. It was
irreverent.
But it was teenager oriented.
Sure.
That was the idea behind Sony's release of the PlayStation, was that they were going to go for 16-year-olds.
Right. They had all like the Final Fantasy games from 7 on. Like it was the more grown up, gritty, mature console. I would also like to encourage our listeners, if you want to find out more about the development of Crash Bandicoot, just Google Sonic's ass. I think you're really going to like what you find. Then they move on to the Uncharted series, which is sort of their big blockbuster thing, right? All of a sudden, Uncharted 1 comes out. It's like a fun little romp.
Well, in Uncharted 1, I don't remember. So that was 2007. So it wasn't quite a launch title for PlayStation 3, but there weren't a lot of launch titles. We're kind of past that point of having good launch titles.
Also, like the PS3 in general, there were no games for the first
it was
rough. Yeah,
it was
like
the same with the PS5.
One of the launch titles was like this weird like third-party Gundam game that looked like it was made for PS1, and then they forgot about it for 10 years, and then they were like, oh, let's put this on a disc.
Yeah. We gotta have something. They have to play something on this console.
And so, but it was soon, right? That was within like a year or two of the PS3 coming out, right?
Yeah, it was. And you know, and this was again a studio that was mostly known for like very cartoony games. Like even for like as hardcore as like Jak and Daxter like tried to like go, it was still done in like sort of a very cartoony way. I mean, Uncharted was just
I feel like even the name of the studio, Naughty Dog, like it's sort of
sounds
like
it makes
a little wacky, you know, but I'm a Naughty Dog.
Exactly. Yeah, but I mean that's what a Bandicoot is, right?
Yeah.
It's a Naughty Dog.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, being a first party studio within Sony's org and being in a situation where now the PS3 being a much more powerful console than previous generations, having additional compute power, additional graphics power, Naughty Dog was like, what if we made something super cinematic that is also very graphically impressive, that hangs its hat on sort of a movie like a filmic narrative.
Yeah, so a lot of focus at this time is going into lighting effects, foliage, and faces.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of games like the very forgotten Western Gun that came out. That was a big like turning point in using facial capture all across the board. And so this is like, look, we're getting very successful actors. We're working on that. It's not a super cinematic game, not like the sequels are.
Right.
It definitely has some pretensions of that, but mostly it's still like cutscenes are this, gameplay is this. Cutscenes are this, gameplay is this, but people did really, it seems, love the foliage of the first Uncharted.
Yes.
It's a terrible game.
It's not my favorite.
Fucking awful.
I feel like foliage was the style at the time, though.
Yes,
because, like,
it was.
Crisis,
you wore it on your belt.
Yeah, it was foliage, faces, and bloom.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I feel like I'm such a fucking like PC gamer asshole because, the fact that Crisis in that whole thing was sort of happening in parallel on the PC side is those were the big focuses of what gamers wanted at the time. And by what gamers wanted, I mean, it's what studios were like, hey, you want this.
Well, yeah, because they were just trying to create the feel of an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't.
Down to the imitative music.
Yes. And I don't think they really fully got it in the first Uncharted, but where things really exploded for them was Uncharted 2.
Uncharted 2 is a genuinely fun game.
Yes.
Even then, the encounters are still too long. It has much more robust like stealth elements to it. But the moment you're out of stealth, you're just shooting 40 guys from now on.
Yeah.
This is the Naughty Dog principle of game design.
It is.
The Naughty Dog way.
And, you know, they do this entirely long this very long level. It's the train level, which is like notoriously one of the best levels in video games. It's very fun. It just keeps building and ratcheting up tension. And it shows that they're like understanding of how to structure like a very linear game design, but still make it feel like fun and exciting.
Yeah, they do a thing that is actually kind of like Sonic, where it's like you, the player, are not actually doing a whole lot, but when it works, it feels fun. You feel engaged the whole time. It's not exactly a quick time sequence, and a quick.
Now we're back in like the Macintosh from 1996.
QuickTime.
Myst. QuickTime was a big part of the game Myst. You remember that? The fucking bookcase.
Just looking at my.
Wait, are you talking about the prequel to Riven?
Yeah,
I am,
yeah. Just looking at my QuickTime impregs of Sonic. Google Sonic impreg for more.
Not MPEG, MPreg. Big difference.
Very different.
Very
different. Yeah. VLC has trouble with impregs, but what they're doing is they're integrating the storytelling and they're integrating the big set pieces with the actual gameplay. Like one of my favorite sequences is one where you're running through a city and a helicopter is shooting down all of the buildings that you are standing in, and everything is collapsing behind you. The train is another big point, and also the points where you're in the like flash forward, where you're in the wreckage of the train, having to crawl up the seats and everything like that.
Yeah.
It really is having a lot more fun and just throwing a lot of big things that are, again, not super interactive, but it doesn't matter because they're pretty cool.
This is something that also Hideo Kojima is really good at, especially in like Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah.
Some of those things. It's a similar kind of feel where you are technically in control. You're not actually doing anything, but the storytelling around what's happening is such that you feel invested in the stakes of the moment.
And these games owe a lot to Kojima, right? And they owe a lot to David Cage,
and
as we're going to see.
a lot to Sam Lake.
Unfortunately, we got to hand it to him. Sam Lake figured out a way, his studio figured out a way to tell a story without interrupting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they still had a lot of cutscenes. God knows.
Right.
But like the idea of you walking around as story is delivered to you, which they didn't totally invent, right? We still had like the audio logs in System Shock and BioShock.
Yeah.
But this being the character talking, being the monologue that goes through you in Uncharted and in The Last of Us, they don't do the monologue. They don't do the in the head narration. They do walk and talk.
Right.
Yeah.
West Wing, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah. But I mean,
Aaron Sorkin's The Last of Us, Chapter 3.
I mean, that's the thing is that they'd immediately die because the clickers would be like, they couldn't shut up and the clickers would devour them immediately.
Are you kidding? You think Kristen Chenoweth wouldn't take down like 60 of them before she's gone?
Oh my God, of course she would.
She has violence in her.
Uncharted 2 explodes. It sells gangbusters. Like it wins all these Game of the Year awards. Naughty Dog is suddenly sitting on top of the world. And so what do? They're like, well, we've only focused on one game in the past. Let's actually split up and let's do 2 teams simultaneously. We're going to do Uncharted 3 on one team.
Yep.
And then we're going to do this other IP. So they were looking for pitches.
And I was going to say, this other idea is just Uncharted with zombies. And then I remembered Uncharted has zombies in it.
Sure does.
Because the storytelling always goes off the rails by the end of the game.
We get these 2 programmers, this guy, Bruce Straley, and we get this young up-and-comer named Neil Druckmann.
I've heard of him.
Who you may know as the co-creator of the Last of Us TV show and writer and director of some of the episodes of the Last of Us TV show.
Interesting. He has the same name as the first guy who went on the moon. Neil Druckmann.
Neil Druckmann, yeah.
Yes. What? Is this the conspiracy you want to start for this podcast?
I'm not starting the conspiracy.
I'm
just
the
first
man on the moon.
Well, it's not. We're not saying that Neil Druckmann, the developer of The Last of Us, was the first man on the moon. It's just he just happens to have the same name as Neil Druckmann,
and the same face.
The first guy who was on the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So so the Spore.
Hey AJ, it's getting a little dark in here. Could you turn up my gas light?
My husband will be home anytime. So the Spore of this idea was born from a college project that Druckmann was working on at Carnegie Mellon for his professor, a fellow named George Romero.
Oh.
That George Romero.
He didn't even work on Spore.
Which would combine, quote, the game. A game would feature gameplay of the PlayStation 2 classic Eco, a lead character much like John Hartigan from Sin City, and would be set during a zombie apocalypse of Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Druckmann then interns at Naughty Dog. He started as an intern and then became co-president, which is quite a trajectory for one to like.
And it
take
can happen to you too.
Yeah,
listeners,
through hard work,
and for throwing your friend under the bus. So
yes.
So Straley, who is the co-developer of The Last of Us, is not credited on the TV show at all.
No,
and
nor is he credited in The Last of Us Part 2.
No, because he didn't work on The Last of Us Part 2. He left the industry signing Burnout, but he then came out when The Last of Us TV show came out and said video games need a union because all of the work that he did, he's not contractually owed anything.
He has no entitlement to it. Yeah,
sure. So yes, unionize the video game industry fucking yesterday. But their original pitch was a thing called Mankind, which was a reverse Y the Last Man, where the cordyceps fungus, which is the thing they came up with because they were watching Planet Earth. And look, I'm not saying they were high when they were watching Planet Earth, but they were watching Planet Earth, so it's not a zero-sum chance.
Sure. Yeah.
But they see how the cordyceps fungus possesses ants' minds, and it has the ability to like go inside there and like make them act outside of their own will.
Oh,
like,
right. The ants get super aggro, right?
Yeah, so what would happen if this transferred to humans? And that was a very scary thing for them. And in the original pitch for Mankind, it was about this fungus, but it only affected women. So all the women on the planet died off, except for one who was immune, this little girl, Ellie. And this older guy would then take her across the country in order to get a vaccine. And he pitched this in the meeting, and everyone female
booed.
Employee at Naughty Dog went, "What the fuck, man?"
That was Neil being like, "Hey, wouldn't this be cool?"
Yeah, well, honestly, it seems to me like it wasn't even because it was two dudes doing this. It wasn't a thought that even occurred to him, and he has later gone on to say that it was a misogynistic idea. Yeah. So he is a guy who does learn from his mistakes.
Wait, Neil Druckmann said that?
Yes, he did. He said it was misogynistic.
If there's one thing to say about mankind, there's nothing kind about man.
You know what? If that weren't like the depths that Neil Druckmann made for the rest of this game, I'd fault you. But that's about man's not too good. Yeah, turns out man might be bad. Actually,
society we live in one.
Sounds
of
like
those.
Sure do.
The song that Tom Waits wrote for that Wojciech adaptation kind of hits close to home with this game.
Yeah.
So the idea of taking cordyceps means that they basically get to do a zombie story while violently resisting the concept that this is about zombies in any way.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking strange.
Oh, it's
because
irritating.
It's just genre, dude. Like, it's just a genre piece. You don't need to pretend that it's not.
It's 2013. Everything is zombies right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Walking Dead is like what, the most popular show on TV at this point? Like, come on
it ends
now.
up running until like last year. Like,
That's the reason that HBO was able to start doing The Last of Us, was we needed another zombie show.
Yeah, well, I mean, Game of Thrones had ice zombies.
That's true. Game of Thrones had zombies. Walking Dead was AMC.
Right, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Like, it was HBO's opportunity to get into the lane that AMC had left.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had Shaun of the Dead. We had George Romero's last movies.
Yeah.
Not John Romero, George Romero, the original zombie guy. And he's worth talking about for a moment because the history of the zombie is an interesting one, right? Because with zombies, the original definition of what a zombie is related to like hoodoo, right? It's one person under the thrall of somebody else in whatever form that takes. Sometimes that's like a golem, and sometimes it is a voodoo story. Sometimes it is the German expressionist silent film classic, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Right. It was a potent concept. There's just a dude who's out there killing people, doesn't know that he's doing it.
Right.
There's also White Zombie with Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
But once we get past World War II and we find ourselves in the atomic age, we start to scientize it. Scientificalization of that concept.
Well, because everything needs a naturalistic explanation.
Yeah.
And also, you know, we've now seen the horrors of the atomic age. We've seen what can happen to people when they're exposed to, say, a tremendous amount of radiation because the United States decided to commit unspeakable war crimes to Japan, you know, things like that.
Yeah. And we see what like the effects of that are. There's also a really important point because in 1954, Richard Matheson writes his novel, I Am Legend.
Yes.
Where he medicalizes the concept of vampirism. So I Am Legend, unlike the Will Smith movie, don't hit me, Will Smith.
It is Oscar night.
I did a joke about Will Smith hitting somebody.
Who are you, Chris Rock?
That's I am.
No,
Yes.
you haven't made a G.I. Jane joke yet, so how could I know you're Chris Rock?
Yeah, but you know it's coming. You know me.
Oh my God. You oh wow. If you've called your shot and at the end of this you end it with a G.I. Jane joke.
I'm not you. I'm gonna blow this. I'm not Babe
corner
Ruth.
pocket.
Yeah. But like it's important to note I Am Legend because in the story of I Am Legend, we find ourselves in what looks like a zombie apocalypse. It's just that it's vampires in the original Matheson novel.
Yeah.
And you have a main character who is the lone stalwart against the world of vampires, but there's a difference because vampires are fully sentient, and what ends up happening is that it's a classic Richard Matheson reversal of context where it's like, well, in a world where everyone's a vampire and there's just one guy going out there and driving stakes through their hearts during the day,
right?
That guy's the monster now. Much more sophisticated story than what you get with Will Smith. Don't hit me.
Why is he here?
Yeah, that's weird.
Why did you invite him over?
I
So
didn't
going to
invite
insult
him.
his movies.
He just walked in.
You have to invite Will Smith.
Because he's a vampire.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Pull it out. No.
And so we start to see like this same thing happens with the concept of the zombie, right? If a vampire, which is often itself a very solitary kind of enemy, can become this like germ-based swarm, maybe the zombie can as well. And and no better example of that than Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Which then uses its zombie story somewhat accidentally to be a piece of social commentary.
Yes.
Right? Because George Romero was a Pittsburgh filmmaker. It is a Pittsburgh movie with Pittsburgh actors. One of the best actors he knew was a black man playing the lead role. And then at the end of the movie, as the military goes in, sweeps and kills the zombies, he comes out of the trapdoor in the house and he is shot on sight before even getting the chance to say, hey, no, I'm a civilian, right?
And who is that actor?
Dwayne Jones was his name. Not a big name.
He didn't end up doing anything else after that, really?
He did some other thing. He actually kind of had a little bit of a moment during the blaxploitation era. He was in Ganja and Hess, which is a classic of that genre, but he was never a big
not a household
star.
name, obviously.
No, I mean, he really was like
He's
this Pittsburgh
great in
guy.
that movie, though. He is tremendously good in it.
All the actors are fantastic in Night of the Living Dead. It's great performances all around. George Romero was working in like local TV, which is how he also was working on some of the original versions of Mr. Rogers' TV show. When he was still a local,
classic,
local. And Romero then sort of runs with this idea of using the zombie for social commentary, right? Dawn of the Dead. I almost said Day of the Dead. That's the next movie.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead is about a bunch of zombies walking through a shopping mall.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a point there. I wonder.
Yeah, and I wonder if conservatives will completely misinterpret that movie for like 40 years. But Druckmann, in terms of his ideology and what he thinks about humanity, he's just like, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. We're all diseased, horrible life forms who deserve every bad thing that happens to us. Now, as negative as that sounds, I actually do really like a lot of this game.
Yeah.
But there's something at the core of Druckmann's ideology and what he brings to this storytelling that is just so counterintuitive to my own understanding of the world that I feel myself always at a distance from The Last of Us.
And I guess this is a question that I have here, right? Because we've got the background now of zombie movies, the Romero stuff, and, the subsequent genre pieces.
28 Days Later.
Right.
And you start and you see a lot of the exact same beats play out where like 28 Days Later also ends with the military coming in and all of that. Yeah.
So we've got that. But I think with a movie like 28 Days Later or the Romero movies, like there is still a point about the potential of humanity in spite of all of the darkness. Whereas Last of Us, it's so bleak, it's so grim.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you get from point A to point B there in terms of the narrative, in terms of the themes? I mean, we'll talk about this as we dig into the game itself. I just think it's an interesting thing to sort of keep in the backs of our heads.
Yeah. Look, so Neil Druckmann grew up in Israel and is a big follower of Israeli politics.
Which are going great right now.
Yeah, which are going super fine.
Only democracy in the Middle East.
And once you start looking at these games sort of through that particular lens, a lot of stuff starts coming more into focus.
But that's why. So he's Jewish?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's wild because like I would have thought that he was like a Calvinist. It's the fucking total depravity of it all, right?
Yeah, well, Zionism may have just reinvented Calvinism for Jewish people.
It is sort of relentlessly bleak. And I actually think that it is no longer The Last of Us. It is now The Last of Us Part 1.
Right.
And which means it will forever be in conversation with The Last of Us Part 2, which neither of you two have played.
Correct. Right.
But I have played.
It's going to be bothering AJ this whole time because he's going to be connecting it to this other thing that we cannot connect it to.
My bones will be leaping out of my skin. But I feel like still in this first version in The Last of Us Remastered, just the Part 1, he's able to keep a lot of the truly dire shit out of it. His main thesis for the second game is that obviously revenge is bad. Did you know when you do revenge, you dig 2 graves?
Is that
for
true?
the 2 people you take revenge out on, and they're both dead.
Yeah, they're both dead now. And you're happy. You're happy they're holding the shovel. But also that it doesn't matter if you try and escape revenge. You as a human are so terrible that you're always going to seek it.
Okay, Thomas Kid. Right? What is this? The Spanish Tragedy by Thomas Kid?
That joke is a Spanish tragedy.
In the 1578 seminal work of English theater?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of Spanish, they did study a lot of the Spanish flu in the 1918s in order to get some inspiration for this and how people would react in sort of a time of the end of the world. But
I wonder what that's like.
That's not where the game starts, though, right? The game, we start in a little prologue. We're in Austin, Texas. Joel has just come home from a long day.
Tech ruined it. That is.
Yeah. The year is 2013. Boy, oh boy.
Before Elon Musk ruined it.
That's true. Yeah, they're keeping it weird. It's still weird.
It is
weird.
still very
weird.
weird. Not in this household, though. This is a very conservative
This household is normal.
gun-toting household. Joel Miller, our protagonist, has come home from a long day of contracting. And
at the mill.
At the mill. It turns out it's his birthday, and his daughter, Sarah, just a very cute little rug-a-bug, has bought him a new watch.
Yeah, good for her. This is a David Cage scene.
Yes.
This is 100% like, here you have the divorced dad or widower or whatever.
But
you are the kid. You are walking around the house. You are interacting with things and having thoughts.
Now, if it was a David Cage game, you could press X to dad, which unfortunately you can't.
Yeah, there's no like...
there's no timed minigame where you have to dad the best.
You have to put a ribbon around the watch box and then you keep fucking it up.
Failing it up, so you just make them kiss over and over again. Yeah. No.
And the daughter doesn't have a strange Canadian French accent.
Well, again, everything in this game feels very lived in, and this actually goes to a lot of like where I think Druckmann is most successful is as a director of the mocap scenes.
Yes.
He writes dialogue, and then I watched they did a documentary about The Last of Us called Grounded, which you can watch on YouTube its entirety. Sony released it as sort of like a behind the scenes of like, the greatest game story ever told or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get to talk to Troy Baker, you see Ashley Johnson all talking about their time behind the scenes. And what happened is
it takes a lot of time out of his day because you actually get to talk to Troy Baker.
Yeah.
You yourself.
Yeah. No, he's actually set up a whole bunch of NFTs that you can then buy, and then he'll just say whatever you want. To Troy Baker, great actor, terrible opinions on NFTs.
You know who else does that shit? Matthew Lillard. I found that out.
I was Sterling Renaissance Festival's own Matthew Lillard.
I was talking with Maya again, and I was like, you know what? Turns out Matthew Lillard's really into the NFTs. And it's like, can we fix him? That's the question.
Do you know who isn't into NFTs?
Who?
Richard Karn.
That's right.
Yeah,
our special boy.
Isn't.
He is a landlord.
He is. He's in fact more like Richard Tarn.
Because of Tar.
Because of Tar.
He's the composer Lydia Tar.
So anyway, you get this watch is Joel. It's this brand new watch.
It's an NFT.
It's a nice
watch.
little bonding scene. But Druckmann would allow an incredible amount of improvisation. While doing these mocap scenes, he's like, do this scene at the table read, and it's like, okay, now make it like make it your own, like make it believable.
Yeah.
And I think he actually does owe a lot of like how grounded this game is in the actors that he got for it.
Well, and it's interesting, like to look at Naughty Dog's games from this period and to see how relatively quickly they're made, because they're pretty much just using the same engine from game to game.
Right.
Like this game is not too dissimilar from Uncharted, except you don't climb as much. Like you can't climb anything besides like ladders.
Yeah.
And you have a very rudimentary like crafting and upgrading system.
But it helps, of course, that these games are completely linear, right?
Yes.
This is not a Rockstar situation where you've got this open world with a lot of moving parts.
Nor is it a Naughty Dog situation years later, because Last of Us 2 does not have this sort of brisk schedule to it, but like Uncharted 1 2007, Uncharted 2 2009, Uncharted 3 2011, Last of Us 2013.
That's really
2 years
impressive.
between each game, because they found a thing that just worked. Cover-based shooter. It zooms in. You walk slow during the walk and talk scenes. You just apply the story to the template.
Well, and where we get with the story is a great example of sort of one of those walk and talk moments leading into some action, right? Because
Sarah wakes up in the middle of the night. Joel is not there.
Right.
So you just wander around this empty house. The tone this sets is really great. It's a very scary kind of haunted house moment. You're expecting something to jump out at any time. Nothing really does, except there's a beautiful moment where you're watching like the TV's been left on and you're watching a news report happen, and there's an explosion that happens on the TV, and then you see the explosion happen outside the window. So you know that like the danger is very near, but it's not quite at you yet. You go downstairs, you find you find Joel, who runs in from the backyard, and there's so much in this game that's left unsaid in a way that, like, I feel like the TV show does a lot of, like, explaining.
Yeah, a
about
very key
things.
thing is this game never has the scene where someone is out of focus in the background, slowly turning into a zombie.
Yeah.
What does the TV show do in like minute 15?
It's out of focus.
They have
There's somebody
Mrs.
turning into a
Adler.
zombie.
She's going all zombie,
right.
which you might remember that old lady from Slings and Arrows.
Yeah, that's her. That's her.
Wow.
But yeah, so Joel runs in and his neighbor has been zombified. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
infected.
Zombocom.
And you can do anything.
And bursts through the window. Joel shoots him in the face almost immediately.
Yeah.
There's also
you don't have the like Joel has had something happen already.
Yes.
He is at the point of realization. He may have gotten a call from his brother. Like, you're already, because you're from the perspective of the daughter at this beginning, you are in the middle of it and you are not in charge.
And this is a strong choice, I think, just to
Very
drop you right into the middle of it in this way. Like, this is much more assured than a lot of the other storytelling in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they also lied to every single press person they talked to about this game because they were just like, you play as Joel the whole time. They're like, oh, you don't play as anyone else? They're like, nope. Because they really wanted to keep this stuff a secret.
But
Because
that's good. That's a good thing to lie about.
It was genuinely a very good move on their part because it is so shocking.
Yeah.
Because also you're like, well, I don't remember seeing Sarah in the rest of the game. And you're right, you don't, because you
It's
drive
not
into
called
town.
the Sarah of us.
Nope.
It's not. You're right, Brian. You're right. It's not called that.
I just found that out. I learned how to read yesterday.
Sarah gets. Don't worry, I'm a child actor. It took me a long time to learn how to read too. No, but I think Sarah is the most underserved character, maybe in the game. There are a couple more that get worse treatment than her, but like we don't really get to know anything about her very much before she spoiler gets shot and dies in Joel's arms.
And I feel like they knew how early they wanted to get rid of her, and that's why they made the choice to make you play as her.
Yeah.
The TV show tries to, make a deeper connection with this character by just making you spend more time with her doing basically nothing.
Doesn't really ground it because like the point of this character is she's a device. She's the reason that Joel feels bad about his life, right? Is that he lost his daughter at the beginning of the pandemic because he tried to get out of town and
bad things happened.
His daughter got fucking assassinated by the military.
Yes, but that's also very important. It wasn't an infected that killed his daughter.
Right.
No.
It was man. It was a soldier. It was a guy who's just like, oh, but he's got a little girl. Understood. And then he like shoots them down anyway because men are at their heart inherently evil and merciless, right? That's what happens in pandemics. People just get really fucking mean.
Right.
Right. Anyway, there's a note you can find that Sarah has written Joel a birthday card, and I just want to read what she's written in the birthday card to give you some like insight into Joel as a father. You hate everything about me, but you're still the best dad ever. How do you do it? So Joel's a terrible father, like from the word go. And I think that's actually a really cool and strong choice. It's not like he was once a great dad and then has to become great again. He is a bad dad who then has to learn how to become tolerable.
Right.
I want to talk about the moment that we get. We're driving through town now. This is the most set piece this game gets. Actually, it doesn't do all the Uncharted stuff except for a little bit in the DLC.
You're talking about the riding in the back of the car.
You are riding in the truck with your dad and your uncle.
Right.
Yeah.
You are Sarah. You are playing as Sarah. You are playing as Prompto.
And you still have some movement. You can turn the camera in any direction that you want. And this highlights one of the issues that they have with the storytelling of this game, with how far they're trying to push one idea without being able to push the rest of it. Yeah. Because if you're not looking out the front, you don't really see anything happen.
Right.
Oh, were you just like, were you purposely like looking away from the action?
It gives you the options.
Yeah,
You're like,
there's
going to be something going on over there. Maybe that building's going to explode. Maybe there's going to be something chasing us, like behind us. It's going to over. But no, you don't want to move her at all. You just want to keep looking.
Well, there are a couple moments where if you don't look out the side, you don't see the Zombo come and like slam your car at one point.
Then it will wrench control of the camera away from you, and then you'll see it hit the car, which is a better effect, right?
Yeah,
it's a more cinematic effect.
Which is what this game is trying to do. In no uncertain terms, it is not really trying to be a video game for the majority of its runtime. It is trying, I think, to be a more cinematic experience.
Yes and no. We'll talk about the core gameplay loop in a little bit.
Yeah. Once we get to a point where
because at this point we're not playing the game yet.
In terms of the storytelling, though, I do think this idea continues because there were many moments. Like one example just being in, I think, Pittsburgh, I was trying to get one of those rafts that you have to push over. I was on the other side of the raft, ready to push it back to land, and there were some sounds that happened. And then Ellie's like, what was that? And Joel's like, yeah, don't worry about it. And I was like, no, what was that, though?
Sure.
Joel, you didn't see what happened. I was there. I was with you.
Right.
And I guess there was some action that happened on the road above that scene, which if you're going straight towards the raft, you see it happen. There's like a woman gets run over or shot or something.
Oh,
but
shit.
I missed it entirely.
Yeah,
I missed it entirely
because
they decided to let me look anywhere else and didn't have anything else go on in those other places.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the game does make you watch Sarah die. She screams and cries and then dies very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Blessedly, in the show, it's much longer and I think a lot more wrenching. But, Troy Baker...
I disagree.
Josh and I are on the same page.
I don't know. I just looked at you and I was like, I thought in the show it was just trying so hard.
Yeah, which is actually the first take that they did of this scene. Troy Baker talks about this scene all the time because he came in screaming, crying, tearing his hair out, right? Just like, this is like every actor, like, look at me, I'm acting, my daughter has died.
Especially for him, because he's primarily a voice actor, and so that's what you do. You go a lot farther when you're dubbing anime or doing a traditionally voice acted video game.
Yeah, but he was also doing some very unhealthy method shit, quite frankly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, not against other people, just in terms of like his own psychological process. Like he was just like, what I learned was like, it was like opening up putting your mouth on like a fire hydrant. Like it was just too much emotion. And Druckmann was like, so we have to do a reshoot of that scene because what I'm seeing right now is a man who's lost his daughter. But what I'm not seeing is a man who's just like, this is going to be okay. Oh no, it might not be okay. I can still fix this. She's gone. And that's actually what I think the performance that you
get. That's good direction.
It's really
good
direction. And that's where I think he's actually the most successful. I think Neil Druckmann is a really good director of actors.
Yeah.
Because he is so detail oriented and he's so process oriented
and he's actually pointing you to an actable objective.
Yes.
You know, like
yes. And I think that's what you get in the game. I think Troy Baker's performance in the game is so wrenching because it's just like, no, this isn't gonna happen. I'm gonna move you. I'm gonna fix you until the exact moment where she's just gone.
Yeah.
So now we find ourselves in the future.
Yeah.
20 years in the future.
2033.
Everybody is not a zombie now. Not zombies.
Yeah, they're infected. They're all
no one in the modern day, when faced with a zombie pandemic, would ever say the word zombie. No siree.
Nope.
So
in a very real and grounded world such as this.
So you get like a little montage of little things like headlines and stuff like that. And one of these things is that there is now a revolutionary terrorist insurgent group.
Yes.
And their demands include a call to return to the 3 branches of government.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Yep. The Fireflies.
We want checks and balances, and we're going to bomb every building until we get it.
I love the idea. I can't believe I missed that. Revolutionary radical liberalism. That's fucking awesome.
Like bicameral legislation, motherfucker.
Independent judiciary or death.
Let's bring back Scalia.
I couldn't get enough of that. I thought it was so fucking funny.
That rules.
These guys are radical originalists.
That's very like, I took a political science class in college and I need to add a little bit more texture to this world.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that happens. Like Joel is set up at the quarantine zone or the QZ in Boston, and they're drug runners and gun smugglers.
Yeah, so now there's been 20 years of just absolute totalitarian military rule.
Yes.
And the only people alive that you know of really are people who live within these quarantine zones.
Right.
Yes.
And then some sort of relay figures in other places.
Yeah. The quarantine zones are basically gigantic. There's concrete, gates, blocks, you can't get in or out without authorization. and within the walls of the quarantine zone, it's hell. It's just hell.
There's death squads. You have everything is like you get meal vouchers, in order to eat anything.
Yeah, you live in kind of a slum. It's very Final Fantasy VII.
Well, it's Half-Life.
That too.
It feels like Half-Life.
It's City 17.
Yeah, it's City 17. You have a friend named Tess, who it's implied that there is sort of like a relationship between Joel and Tess.
Yeah,
it's
or like a former relationship or something.
And now they're
that.
just business partners. They've been betrayed by a guy named Robert, who does not matter at all.
Nope.
I figure we can actually just skip to the point where we meet Ellie.
Yeah. Bottom line is,
there's just so many little things. Yeah,
they need to get more guns. Is basically what the deal is.
Yeah.
Robert doesn't have the guns anymore. So then they meet this other lady who's like, okay, I'll get you guns, but you got to take this girl to this place.
Yeah, yes. And the leader, and that woman's name is Marlene. She is the leader of the Fireflies who demands that there be a Senate. We need a Senate and a House, and bills need to pass the House and then go to the Senate.
Same thing. We need proportional
House.
representation in the lower house, and we need 2 senators per state in the upper house.
And DC will never be represented.
We must approve these Supreme Court justices in an orderly fashion.
There can only be 9.
It's so fucking stupid. It's the most like Obama shit I can imagine.
But that's the style at the time.
It is the style of the time.
Like there's probably some fucking like terror cell in Chappaqua led by Hillary.
No,
like she's
Hillary,
President Tandy in Fallout 2.
Hillary is leading a cult somewhere. I'd imagine she's gone the
Bohemian Grove.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, where they killed Scalia.
Oh no!
They hunted him
for sport. This is where we meet Ellie, who is played by Ashley Johnson and is one of the most remarkable characters in video games.
Yeah.
And I will stand by that.
Does Ashley Johnson also do the mocap? Or
she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she short or?
No, I think she's actually taller than Ellie.
Okay.
At least in the game. Yeah. Because she's not a kid when she plays this.
No,
Troy Baker, very notably a young man playing Joel in this.
Yeah. How young?
He looks like Cloud Strife. Like the way Ashley Johnson described him when she first saw him was this Final Fantasy dude. Like he's got this like bleached blonde hair, these like piercing blue eyes, and he looks to be like in his early 30s.
He's got
really,
this sword that he carries around.
He really does look unreal. One of the weirdest things was like Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Just modeled Troy Baker's character off of Troy Baker's actual face, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, he's a beautiful man who has terrible opinions on NFTs, and he gives a tremendous performance. And it's also, honestly, just a small side note here is that in acting school they're always like, if they want an old man, they'll cast an old man. But I say you never fucking know, because a lot of older men read for this role, but Troy Baker got it.
Yeah.
And because he's perfect. He is perfect for this role. And I think the reason the game works is the dynamic between the two, but especially because of Ashley Johnson's performance as Ellie.
Yeah. The game also is actually very, very smart about how it depicts their relationship at the beginning, Joel and Ellie's relationship.
Yeah.
In the first part of this game, as you're getting out of Boston, they don't talk much at all to each other.
Yeah.
Like when is her name Tess? That's her fucking name.
Yeah.
When she's around, there's talking. When Ellie's around, no talking.
Well, because why would there be? He's got a job to do. He doesn't care about this fucking kid.
Well,
it's just like
it's a defense mechanism, right? He can't care about this kid.
He says what he needs to say. So it's just like, spores. Right? Like it's turn your light on, things like that.
There's a couple situations where Ellie tries to start a conversation. He just doesn't reciprocate.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk to a child. This is this is True Grit. This is the 1968, not quite revisionist Western. Yeah. It's that same sort of story. You have the gruff, morally questionable old man. Yeah. You have the young girl child, and they make their trek across the American wasteland in this story.
And what I think what differentiates Ellie, though, is just how capable she is in a way that was not present in earlier drafts of this thing. Like Ashley Johnson was very much responsible for making Ellie as capable and helpful as she is in the game. Like there are points where she's just like, Ellie was supposed to be like taken away and like kidnapped by somebody and just like, I guess, go limp or whatever. And she was like, I would go and I'd try to fight this guy.
Right.
And it's really refreshing that you have a female character in a video game that's never sexualized, Like that's radical in and of itself.
Well, because she is a child, and that's what she is going to be as a storytelling device, which is rare, right? Like you don't get that with like Ashley in Resident Evil.
I was going to
4.
say the exact same thing.
You know,
even Ashley is kind of,
Well, and Ashley, once you beat the game, you can unlock skimpier and skimpier outfits for her to wear on your next playthrough.
Right.
Like, and that's actually worth talking about, is like this element of escort mission design.
Yes.
Because on the one hand, you have the classic escort mission, which is just terrible and everyone hates it. You know, you've played it in everything from Zelda to Grand Theft Auto. They kept doing it for years for some reason. Yeah. And it was always awful. Then there was Resident Evil 0, where the whole game is that for some reason. And then Resident Evil 4, where they make the character that you escort kind of smart. She's still a liability, but she will duck if you shoot in her direction, if you give her a second to do it. Otherwise, you still might blow her head off. She does get picked up by enemies, but she tries to sort of get away. And there are places where you can hide her, like in a barrel or whatever, so that you can avoid a lot of the issues.
Right.
Now, this same year, we have a complete upending of this idea in BioShock Infinite.
Right.
Where Elizabeth is not a liability at all. Right. She is an asset. She throws you ammunition. She does things for you. She is never someone that you have to like check in on and
she's
say,
invincible. Yeah.
The way that they sort of split the difference then in this game is that Ellie is not invincible, but she is for the most part invisible.
It's very dissonant sometimes when you are still sneaking around and you're in stealth and she's just like fucking standing in
literally waving at a zombie.
She's walking like directly in front of it and in front of a guy and the guy doesn't see her or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's an accommodation that they have made for the sake of gameplay. And for the most part, I think it works. You don't always have to be like, oh God, where is the character? What do I need to do? Every once in a while with the zombies, Ellie will get grabbed or your other companions will get grabbed. So then you have to like get the zombie off. But there are also other times where your companions will attack a guy who's attacking you, you know? So
they'll come in with the assist.
It goes both ways.
I also played this game on Survivor mode, which is, it's not grounded mode, which is like the super hard one that they released afterwards. It's the hardest mode you can play within the thing. And there were a couple times where the infected were alerted by Ellie running around, which I thought was very interesting. But they also take away your sight, your listen mode, the Batman Arkham detective mode that was in every game.
Hitman Instinct mode.
The Hitman Instinct mode
that you now know exists,
which is fine for some encounters. Quite frankly, it actually made for some very thrillingly tense ones. Yeah, because I actually had to like learn like enemy patterns and like sneak up on them in certain ways, and that was very cool.
I hate it.
But also there are a lot of encounters in this game that were not designed for you not to have that ability.
No,
So that was
what's interesting is that this radar ability is the Hitman Instinct ability from Hitman Absolution, because it's also a sneak mode. You are always sneaking at the like optimal sneak level while also getting your radar of whatever enemies are around you. That is from Hitman Absolution 100%.
Yeah, you have to take Ellie out of the city. You escape the quarantine zone. You make your way downtown. You go through a skyscraper.
Yeah.
You make your way to the capital.
The skyscraper is fun. This feels very Naughty Dog. It feels very Uncharted. You are in a it's like that scene in Cloverfield. You are in a skyscraper that has fallen into another one but hasn't collapsed entirely.
Yeah.
Everything is crooked.
Yeah.
It sounds like an old barge when you're inside of it.
Yeah.
Very good, very atmospheric. You don't get another moment like that in the rest of the game.
There's a lot of cool stuff too with the camera where if you're in like a place with a lot of dust, like the dust gets on the lens of the game camera, and the lighting that even for a PS3 game, like it looks really cool.
The start menu is just dust in a window, right?
Yeah.
There is no image of a human being whatsoever. You are just looking out of a window, which I think is a very interesting image that they decided to go with for the game.
And apparently they were going to open every episode of the TV show with a window, but they ended up dropping that idea. Could have been interesting.
That's interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
So they make their way to the Capitol building of Boston. What I like most about this intro section is that it's teaching you how to play the game and experience it in a very different way from most video games. Because you get to the Capitol building, and what are you expecting as a player? right? You're expecting a boss battle. You're expecting a big showdown where you take cover behind like one of the big in the dome somewhere and you snipe all the guys running in. It's a horde thing, right? You're battling the Phaedra troops that have followed you there, the government troops that have followed you there, who really do not want they do not want those branches of government. They just want the one, and you are fighting against that. But no,
not only are you defending yourself, you're defending democracy.
You are defending democracy, but instead, what happens is you find out that your companion, Tess, has been bit.
Yeah.
And she shoves you and Ellie into the back room and locks the door and takes out all the guards herself.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this game that you thought was going to be a video game is like, no, actually, your whole thing is just to survive.
You gotta survive.
You are not Rambo.
And to the point of survival, this is also where we learn why Ellie is so important. Is that she's also been bit, but she got bit a while ago and nothing is happening.
Yeah.
It seems that she has some sort of an immunity from this fungus.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important that she gets safeguarded and delivered to the place that she's supposed to go. Because there's a real possibility that they could be able to create some sort of a vaccine or a treatment using her something.
Much like the main character in I Am Legend.
Hey!
Also, and I think actually this is going to be important as we get to the end of this game. That's not how you make vaccines, unfortunately, right? Like, if that was the case, we would have been able to have solved the HIV situation a long time ago, right? We as of this point, have cured exactly 2 people who have completely cleared human immunodeficiency virus from their bodies because of marrow donations from naturally immune donors. 2 people.
But you can't manufacture that.
You can't do that. It's a marrow donation. It is, which is very intense. It's hard for a body to go through on either side of that procedure.
Right.
Something to keep in mind because
we learned
this
that from A
game
Christmas
does too. And I think it's really important that the game is a little bit smarter than you might think it's going to be, considering that it's a zombie game full of zombies. Infected zombies, yes.
Yes, infected.
Yep. Yes, they are infected with zombies.
Yes.
So
and cordyceps.
you make your way out of Boston.
Yeah. And you make your way to Billstown, way down, Billy Town, way down under the ground.
Yes.
And it's fine. You make your way.
Is that because that musical started in the Berkshires?
Sure.
Is that what you're doing?
No, they have the same amount of syllables, so it made me sing it.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, they make their way to Billstown, and the devil went down to Billstown, and
you can't do 2 songs.
Can't do no.
That's 2 songs.
No,
I didn't sing it. I didn't sing it.
One.
Like I can do both.
This is getting so much worse.
Ain't going away. So Billstown is a very annoying level until you run into Bill. I mean, a lot of this stuff is annoying, and I think Josh, you agree with me on the encounter design.
We might as well talk a little bit.
Let's talk about
the
the gameplay loop, because this is the point where it really comes into
Because as we've established, the whole point is that you are going around. You need to eliminate or sneak past the opposition, and you need to protect your charge.
And largely sneak past is not actually an option.
Correct.
Like you get to sneak for a while and waste a few people, but there are very often, and you can't really tell going into it, there are often points where you actually have to clear the whole room before you can like find the ladder that you need to climb,
which is incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
So stealth is not necessarily always a viable option. What that means is that you have to, eliminate the opposition. Now, there's really a couple ways that you can do that. One way is that you can sneak up behind guys and do a silent takedown. This is generally not viable if there are multiple people in the same area.
It takes a long time.
It's also not like it's not like an immersive sim where like you can. There are objects that you can pick up and throw around to distract people and move them in different places. But unlike an immersive sim or a stealth game, something in the vein of like a Splinter Cell or, Deus Ex, you don't have the ability to move bodies around.
No. They just stay there, which is very annoying.
That's cool.
But also, it creates a very funny effect where if you drop one guy, another guy notices and comes over, you can then jump that guy, and then it's just a never-ending clown car of one body piling up in one place.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. It wants to have stealth mechanics, but the stealth mechanics aren't well baked enough to really be viable. And so that means that you have to use either hand-to-hand combat, which is just pressing the square button a bunch of times to punch the shit out of somebody.
Uncharted.
Or using firearms.
Firearms are less fun than just pressing square a bunch.
Correct. And a big part of the problem is that Joel can't aim.
No.
If you turn...
He's gotten so many head injuries at this point in his life that he's shaky and rickety and
even if you turn, like you can upgrade over time the sway so that it goes down. But
that's why he has the sway, so you can upgrade to get rid of the sway.
Yeah, Josh. But fuck that.
By swallowing a bunch of pills.
Yeah. Because this is the thing, right? It's like sometimes you make concessions for the sake of gameplay, for the sake of fun.
Yeah.
As Reggie Fils-Aimé famously said, the game is fun. If it's not fun, why bother?
That's right.
And so often while I was playing this game, I was like, why am I fucking bothering?
Because
with
it's
this?
real, Josh.
And I think
it's
the
so
other thing,
grounded.
and this is something that's very true for Uncharted, especially Uncharted 1, there's more enemies than there should be in each encounter. Like there's a point where it just runs out of steam and you're like, there's still more fucking guys here.
Yeah. And
I get the point just keep killing.
And I get the point with like the infected, right? Is this idea that like, of course there's like a horde of them.
Yeah.
It's an infected horde. That's the phrase.
but the thing about like something like that is then what you want is from a level design perspective, more options to allow you to solve the problem in different ways. But again, the game design, the level design is so linear that the only way out is almost always through.
Yep. Except the DLC, which we'll talk about later.
Well, and the DLC, and then there are a couple of sections where there are infected where you are not supposed to fight.
So Bill's Town, we have Bill, who is a survivalist who found himself in the perfect situation because no survivalist has really equipped themselves for a real pandemic, but they have equipped themselves for a zombie situation.
Right.
And Bill has taken out over an entire like New England village.
Yeah, why not?
He not only has like a base to himself, he has the entire fucking thing, and he is not friendly to outsiders, even to you, Joel, and you have made contact with him before.
Right.
The way that relationship was described by Troy Baker, which I thought was very apt, is like, oh, he's like Joel's weed dealer.
Yeah.
Like they're cool and fine, but they are not friends. It's a business arrangement entirely. And so Bill in the game is played by a man named W. Earl Brown.
It's actually pronounced Whirl.
So he was the one who at the table read, in the initial script, it said that he had this partner named Frank, and W. Earl Brown was like, well, my part, what do you mean by partner? And Druckmann was like, well, what do you think? What's your instinct? And he said, well, I think there was a romantic relationship there. And Druckmann's like, great, that's what it is.
Oh, and so that's why it's not really present in the dialogue writing, because he just sort of goes, my partner.
Yeah.
In a way that's like, don't love it. Personally, like,
no.
If you're gonna go for it, go for it.
Which they do in the materials.
That
you find.
Yes, and it's also one of the
gay pornos.
Yes. Well, and also the letter from the partner.
Yeah. The letter from the partner, which is brutal and awful, because you end up finding it out that Frank has killed himself.
Yeah.
Because he got bit by a couple of the infected, and he has hung himself.
Yeah, and he writes a letter to Bill basically saying, just so you know, like I killed myself because of the zombie thing, but also I was never coming back. I hate you. Go fuck yourself. Die, bitch.
It's brutal. And this was another moment where they used the tools of video games to tell a story pretty effectively.
Including the cinematic tools, which I think people discount because they're like, well, there's cinematic stuff and then there's gameplay mechanics. And it's like, no, that's also part of the game.
Yeah.
It's literally in there.
And it's communicated in the level design too. The state of the house that you find it in. Like, this is something that I noticed sometimes they pay attention to and sometimes they don't in this game. And I think it was just down to like, we've got to furnish all of these rooms. And sometimes we're just going to pop assets on the wall. And other times we're actually going to design a space. But like, this is something that I love about arcane games, for instance, is that they pay such close attention to how the room ought to look and feel, particularly in like Prey. And the house that we come across with Bill, when we come across Frank's house, it's like, oh yeah, this is the house of somebody who probably had already given up on life before he fucking killed himself.
Yeah, long before. And
so Bill's town is mostly a slog. It is a gauntlet of going through killing a bunch of zombies.
And you don't have the fun guns yet. You don't have
and you don't even get to have them for New Game Plus. They start you back out with your starting weapons. You have to find the weapon again. You keep your upgrades when you get it. But this game also introduces a moment where you just have a shooting gallery. This is one of the first times it's like, forget about the fact that you have limited ammo. Just keep shooting at these guys because you're hanging upside down in one of Bill's traps as he's got these like zombos coming after you.
That's a fun moment, but that's a very Uncharted moment is what that felt like.
It's an extremely Uncharted moment. And it's also like, I only have 3 bullets. And it's like, no, you don't. Just keep shooting.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I imagine because it would get very frustrating if you had to be introduced to an entirely new way of shooting.
It's like, it is an entirely new way of shooting.
It's one of those things. It's one of the rare exceptions with the game is just like, let's do what's fun and not what's realistic in a way that I think a lot of the rest of the game is just like, what's actually realistic? What is the grounded approach that we can take to this?
And so Bill finds you, and then you have a long story scene. You walk and talk with him where he just keeps asking you about Tess. Apparently we were supposed to care about Tess.
We were, for reasons that are unclear, other than the fact that she was alongside you for a little bit.
She was the way in all the behind the scenes, the way they talk about Tess is like, well, she's a very strong and very capable woman. And that was like, that's sort of where that ends. And then when they asked Druckmann about her, it was like, oh, she was a device in order to get you to understand where, like, is that's the way Druckmann talks about his work. Everything is a plot device. Everything is a thing that leads to another end.
We didn't spend time with Tess. She's not much of a device. You know who's a device? The daughter. We already got that. We got it. He has a dead daughter. Daughter died.
This is where the TV show takes the biggest variation, and I just
we need to talk about this episode.
We're not going to spend too much time on this, but Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett play Bill and Frank respectively in the HBO show, and Craig Mazin, who is the showrunner of the co-showrunner with Neil Druckmann for the show, was basically just like, hey, this is really bleak. We gotta have like something in here that's like a good message for Joel. That's not just a warning sign of him like, don't get attached to somebody. Don't get attached to somebody. Don't get attached to somebody.
However, they are also dead.
They are also dead. But so what happens is we just live an entire life with Bill and Frank. It's a love story. It's
okay.
It's basically
they do a bottle episode.
Yeah, we don't find ourselves in a sort of more densely packed part of Massachusetts. We're truly in a New England village.
Yeah.
That's where they filmed
Canada.
But it's a tiny neighborhood. It's like a house and a church and a few more houses. And Nick Offerman, who is just fantastic in the way that he uses his entire body as an instrument for his acting.
It's unreal, this performance.
Is a survivalist who gets exactly what he wants and goes to the Home Depot immediately after people are evacuated by the military and the coast is clear. He sets up a fence. He electrifies everything. He has untold amounts of rations stored. And then someone comes along and they fall in love.
They grow old together.
We follow them over the course of the full 20 years of the pandemic.
Yeah, and meeting Joel and Tess at one point, like we get a lot of that.
Does Frank still die at the end though?
They both die.
Yes,
great, awesome.
Because it is a barrier gaze, unfortunately. But
I don't think it's TV tropes, but it's like it's basically the plot of Amour.
So Frank gets what it's never made clear, but it's basically MS or maybe
I was thinking Parkinson's. And so part of what you find out is in that first episode in a scene that you don't remember, even though you watched it last night, Josh, because no one remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched the entire series now 3 times up to this point, and it's like, oh, that's what they're talking. Because there's a point where Joel is negotiating with the smuggler about medications, and it's medications that they are getting.
Oh,
for
the Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And he's and Frank's just basically like, look, they couldn't cure this before this, and now the world's gone to shit. They're not going to cure it. I want you to poison me. So I want to get married to you today, and then I want you to poison me. And then
so they prepare a nice dinner because Nick Offerman is very good at pouring wine, which is how the show tells you that he's gay because of how he pours wine.
I mean, he also has sex with a man.
But that's not the moment where the thing where they're like, oh yeah, by the way, he's gay. It's like, I don't know. It's like he read Providence or something. It was like, I can do this too. And it's like, you're not Alan Moore. There are some straight men who can write incredible homosexual subtext, and there's Craig Mazin.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I disagree.
Yes.
I think that's really good.
The point is, at the end, we find a meaningful relationship between these two characters, and Nick Offerman reveals that his wine was also poisoned.
So they go to bed together, and they die in each other's arms. And he leaves a note for Joel that says, "Hey, if you find something worth defending in this world, you defend it to the end."
And it has a moment in that letter where it mentions Tess where it is actually emotionally affecting.
Sure.
Maybe because we spend a little bit more time with her in the show and we even watch her die, which you don't get to see in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
You can go back and look at her body later if you want.
Sure you can. Sure can. But it's an episode that decides, oh, we're just going to spend time with these two characters. The show up until this point has had 2 cold opens, right? The first episode has a very short one with like a Dick Cavett type show in the 70s where someone mentions cordyceps.
Yeah.
The second one has this cold open in Indonesia.
Yes.
That is like they Googled where does a lot of flour come from, and they found this town in Indonesia. And it's the best scene in the season so far. I really like that sequence because it feels like Chernobyl. It feels like Craig Mazin's like back in his element.
Yeah. It's a really wonderful thing. They find a fungus expert who basically investigates the cordyceps, and then they ask, so what should we do? And she's like, nuke this town.
Yes.
Let me go home and hang out with my family, but bomb this to shit.
She's like, you know, the Andromeda strain, do that.
And it's very effective and very good. Otherwise, it basically follows the plot of the game, and
this is the biggest like full deviation of like a totally different story happens rather than details.
Right. And so we move on from Billstown. Yeah. They get a car and they
get a car
drive.
in the TV show and in the game. Some people had some comments about, you know, how is the car working? Gasoline. It's been 20 years.
Who cares? Shut up.
Well, I care, and I'm going to say why it's actually good.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone whose grandfather was hoarding gasoline in Southern California just in case the Ruskies invaded. And those barrels of gasoline in a nailed up shed on his Lancaster ranch were not discovered until many years after his death, and they were completely useless and inert. And of course, then my dad had to figure out how to dispose of it legally. You know, the military, like not everyone is dead. It's like 40% of the population or 60% of the population has died off.
Sure.
The military and various resources are still in place. There is still logistics.
Right.
There is still like extractive industry that exists. You just don't get to be a part of that because that's not your part in the society.
Right.
There still is new gasoline being refined. That's why the military still has these vehicles. That's why you can find a car that has working gas.
That's why they have tanks.
So there you go, folks. The gas is good.
Good.
Keep burning gas.
So we make our way
Brought to you by Saudi Aramco, our newest sponsor.
Oh boy. We get a little bit of bonding between Joel and Ellie. Again, what I think makes this game work is their dynamic. And Ellie seems like they're starting to warm up to each other.
Grabs onto one of Bill's porno mags, and she's in the back seat of the truck looking at nude men and their large hanguses.
Yes. Yep. And then Joel's like, that's not for kids, and thinks he has to actually explain where the birds and the bees come from, but Ellie's like, fuck you, I know what dicks do, and throws the magazine out the window. And it's this very lovely moment of levity that is immediately bulldozed in the face. Because
actually bulldozed.
Because like most aggressive encounters in this game, a black guy jumps out and screams and starts shooting at you when you hit Pittsburgh.
This is the longest single chapter of the game.
Yeah, and it's long.
I also remember nothing about it.
Like, I like the hotel. I like exploring
the hotel. Is the one thing, and especially you go down to the basement. There's the famous moment where you have to start a generator
while being chased by a bloater and a whole bunch of other infected.
The bloater. I've done this twice now.
Yeah,
the bloater didn't show up either time.
Really?
I don't know if it's because I found the key before I got to the generator.
I mean,
but I started
helps.
the generator and like 2 stalkers show up. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got it started. Let's go to the door. And I heard the like the explosions
of the things he throws at you.
Well, not even that. It was like It's like get ready for the bloater sounds.
Oh,
like,
sure.
I don't even think he was in the area yet, and I made it out.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a viable strategy.
Which I'm not complaining because they're so annoying.
Yeah. But that level in particular plays a lot with verticality in a way that I think a lot of the rest of the game just doesn't. Like you are able to like find, especially in the hotel, when on the upper level when you're dealing with the dudes there, you can like climb up secret like entrances where things have collapsed. Like it is a lot of. I think it's like a very successful level design.
But for the most part, it's
very
and there are some parts in that level too where like there isn't just one path. Like there are different pathing strategies you can take depending on how you want to
like me
the guys.
finding that key first before I got to the generator. Many people goes the other way around.
I still wouldn't describe it as an open level design or an immersive level design, but it's
no. But it's also not trying to be an immersive level design.
It's not like Prey or Deus Ex or
Thief. For Thief 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is it's not quite as dark. Those games are a little too dark.
A little too dark.
So we get through Pittsburgh. There is like lore that you pick up that there was a rebellion. Like this was a QZ, a quarantine zone, and then it was taken over by these people. These guys are raiders. You find out kind of that Joel was like, oh yeah, I used to do this all the time. I used to just like fucking kill people.
Yeah, he was on both. Yeah, he said I've been on both sides.
You get a little bit about like the story of how people rose up. Not that much. It's not significant. It's not sophisticated.
It also doesn't really matter.
No. It's worth mentioning because we'll talk about the TV episode of it when we get back into the second half. But there's a whole thing about like a car. There's just a big armored car that they have that's unkillable. There's so many letters about the fucking car, but you do get some Uncharted moments with the car. There is one letter where Joel finds like a guy who's like, my whole family's dead. Like the military, they killed my son. It's fuck it. It's over. I'm picking up a gun and I'm going against it. And Joel, after you put it down, goes, well, that's a stupid reason.
Yeah.
Like that sounds as good a reason as any, Joel.
And also, Joel, you did the same thing, but then you just became a raider. Like you're the guy on the road in Mad Max.
Although to be fair, Joel is not like... It is in character for him to be passing judgment on other people without thinking about it in the context of himself.
And it doesn't feel like the game is making some sort of larger statement about the nature of revolutions that don't honor our three branches of government, including the bicameral legislation.
Hey, guess what part 2 is about? So anyway, you eventually meet up with these two other survivors, Sam and Henry.
Two brothers. One is a kid quite a bit younger than Ellie, even.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a really fun moment where Ellie's like, yeah, I'm 14. He's like, I'm almost 14. His brother's like,
really?
Yeah, really?
And that was just, that's cute.
He's like maybe a 10-year-old kid
10,
trying
11.
to seem cool. He's like, I'm 14. Yeah.
The thing about these characters is that I really liked them. These are the first characters that for me kind of jumped out of the screen at me relatively. Bill is just like a kind of guy. And again, like in the TV show, he's more of a real character. Tess doesn't really do anything.
No.
Whereas these are guys who have their own actual objective.
Yeah.
They have a very clearly defined relationship with each other.
Yeah.
The way that they talk to each other as well as to Joel and Ellie is real and believable. There's still a little bit of like, fuck you, you fucking fuck, which this game has a problem with in general. In general, though, I do find them to be relatable, believable characters.
And without like much past. Like they do realize how to develop these characters without having to be like, so my dad did
because we don't need that.
Nope.
It's two brothers and one of them is just trying to help his little brother get through the world, and that's immediately relatable.
And I think their relationship with each other is incredible. I think this also seems to me, I mean, obviously I don't know, but it seems to me to be a result of Druckmann being like, make this, like just improv and like, what this game really does well is when you're not focusing on the characters, if you turn around to look at them, they're in like an interesting like pose, like an expressive pose.
Like when you're walking through the toy shop and things like that.
Yeah. And that's a really lovely character moment where it's just like, Sam is a kid and he wants to have a toy. Yeah. And Henry's like, no, nothing that we can't carry.
Right.
Yep.
And it's like immediate, like all this joy is gone. And it leads to a larger question about this world too. Yeah. Like how quickly did all of the artists die? Like were they all killed? Is there no are there no actors anymore? Are there no clowns? Are there no clowns in the world of Neil Druckmann?
Is there no clown? Is there no joy in your world, Mr. Druckmann?
There must
What
not
has
be,
happened
right?
to the ancient prehistoric art of clowning?
What is? Who are you being
Where
right
are
now?
the clowns?
Is this
Send in the clowns!
Okay, there we go. There we
You're
go.
Kelsey Grammer. You're doing a
Kelsey
perfect Frasier. Holy shit.
Is not. I thought you were doing Andrew Ryan. Is not a clown entitled to the laugh of his smile.
We find
No,
ourselves...
says Neil Druckmann. It belongs to me.
We find ourselves night has fallen. We kind of sneak out of Pittsburgh. There's a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah.
There's
You get left behind at one point. Because
just like Larry Norman warned us.
Yeah.
Because I guess Henry and Sam
They're in it for
abandon you,
themselves.
and
Yeah,
they're in it for themselves.
you
which-
fall off a bridge. They rescue you. It's a little too many things. Then you're out in the suburbs, and
You can go upstairs and you hear Ellie and Sam playing darts downstairs. It's really cute. Like just little moments like that where it's like,
it really
I
shines.
wish there was more of this.
Yeah.
Less of the grim, dark shit, please. More just like nice world building that's
Yeah.
happening around you that you can listen to while you are playing the game.
and there's like a point where you go through some sewage system outside of the city, and there's like people who had built a home there. And I think the implication of the lore in that is that their rainwater collection system ended up growing cordyceps, and then that got all of them killed.
There's like a little
shit. Yeah,
classroom
that's
down
right.
there, a children's classroom. Again, really nice use of level design to tell a story, world building, not through explicit. Like this is something that only games can do.
Yes.
And I want to point that up that like there are other media that require certain things to tell a story. Only in a video game can you walk through a level, look at the level, and now you know more about the world around you.
Josh, let me tell you about a little something called immersive theater.
Okay.
Sure.
You know, we're the first to die in the cordyceps outbreak. We're the immersive theater actors.
That's right.
That's where the clowns went.
That's where the clowns went.
So after all of that action,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of it, we get another cut scene. Surprise, Sam got bit.
The younger brother.
It
got
happened
bit.
a little earlier. We sort of saw him get tackled by a zombie, but now he's actually
This is another shooter gallery portion of the game where you have a sniper rifle and your whole thing is just take down the undefeatable car, and then also this wave of infected that comes.
And
after
also,
the
you
car.
have to get all the way into the house to take out the sniper. Even though I definitely shot right in between those fucking slats, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the
you
game,
have to go in the house.
It's not that kind of a game, which is it's annoying to me.
Well,
but
you don't really have a lot of choices. Is the thing. Like you are there for the Disneyland theme park.
no,
ride.
you're on rails.
Yes.
And
Much unlike a more broadly designed piece of, say, immersive theater.
Yes.
or a masterful immersive simulation, such as say System Shock 2.
I can't tell you how many times I've tried to kill you in immersive shows, Brian, but those slats, they're just always in the way.
And the clowns keep getting you.
I just keep
And then
killing
you're
clowns.
just too delighted to keep going.
There's just a pile of clowns.
But yes, Sam has the virus and or the
Fungus.
The fungus. Sorry. And of course, we get the classic
And
scene
he's
that we
infected.
had that has been in every zombie movie
Yeah.
ever, where
Yeah. Sean's mom.
he's turned. Yeah, it's Sean's mom, Shaun of the Dead,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he's got
But this one's a little bleaker, I would argue.
Yeah. Well, and that's the power of this scene. And again, we will compare this to this particular episode of the show when we're back. But the power of this scene comes from this moment, which plays out almost exactly the same in the show. He is not going to shoot his brother. Joel's about to do it. He has no strong emotional attachment to this child. Almost gets shot by the older brother.
Yeah.
Who then shoots his younger brother himself.
Yeah.
Points the gun at his own head and takes himself out.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what does the game do?
Cuts to black.
Cuts to black and jumps ahead all the way to Wyoming.
Strong choice.
From Pittsburgh.
Strong choice. Again.
We have had a couple of these cuts before, like it happened when you left Boston as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is what makes the story so much stronger, because it tells
in the game
you,
than in the show, you mean?
Yes. Well, and just in the game in general, because I don't think a lot of games do this.
Yeah.
It pulls you away from the main character and says, you don't get to see everything that happens.
Yeah.
You are not entitled to this whole story. You are entitled to the pieces that we fucking show you.
Yeah.
And then it lets you fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
You get to figure out what happened with Joel and Ellie after that. You don't get to see them bury the bodies. You don't get to see them mourn the loss. I mean,
it ascribes meaning to what you did, because that whole Pittsburgh chapter is like, yeah, it's just gameplay. It's meandering. You go in a hotel, you do all this fucking stuff left and right and up and down and off a bridge. And then it says, by virtue of blacking out in the moment where the two brothers die, it says this is what it was about.
Well, and
this is what the whole thing was building to.
And it also does something important too. And again, this just points to the perspective of this game, which I don't agree with, and I think we should talk about.
Oh, I agree with it. I'm a fascist.
Okay. The moment that Joel and Ellie meet Sam and Henry, they could have then just chosen to immediately go their separate ways again. But it was like, oh no, we should stick together. We're better as a group, right?
We're a team now.
We're a team. We're better as a team.
Yeah.
Which then the game immediately throws in the trash, because it's like, oh no, you made each other weaker by sticking together.
Yeah. Well, and there's something very telling about, I don't know if y'all have been watching the behind the scenes talking with the creators of the TV show.
Oh, you bet I have.
Yeah. So I think
I just don't subject myself to this.
It's so fucking vapid. It's amazing. I mean, I did it because of the show.
Yeah, it's content.
Yeah, no, this is for you, listeners.
Yes.
But there was a point that I think is very illustrative of Druckmann's entire thinking, which is at the end of the first episode, he's talking about the pilot and about, the death of Sarah, and also about, them being in the QZ zone in Boston. And he says, at the end of the day, isn't love just like the cordyceps fungus?
Oh, we live in a fucking society.
No, but the other thing is, like, Neil, it's not. No, it's not.
Neil,
love is great. Love is so great.
Thanks, Neil. I'm glad you read Fosca before making this fucking game. Like, anyway, we will find out where this lunacy and where this philosophy takes us, specifically in the TV show's approach to this particular moment when we come back from this break. Do we have a word from our sponsor leading into this, AJ?
Well, it's a crumpled up piece of paper, and it has a note hastily scrawled on it.
Yeah.
It just says, "Send me in."
Salutations, my adoring public. Barnaby Bozo here, local purveyor of yuck yucks and the sole surviving clown in the entirety of North America. I am joined, as always, by my faithful drummer, Lenny. Say hi, Lenny. Oh, that's right, those raiders cut out your tongue. Well, I guess those guys weren't your taste buds, they were your taste foes. Ha! Still got it, Lenny. Anywhoosits, we've got some shows coming up, so if anybody finds this recording that I'm going to place on this bloodstained counter in this corpse-ridden gas station, please head down to the Lakeside Resort in scenic Silver Lakes, Colorado, where we are currently booked for a 3-week residency by a nice man named David, who kinda sounds like if Ned Flanders meant you physical harm. No offense to him, of course, just a little tongue-in-cheek humor. Oh, sorry, Lenny. It'll be so nice to perform again. If there's one thing I believe, it's that the only thing that can heal this broken world is laughter. So they were cannibals. We were able to escape, but unfortunately they managed to cook and prepare Lenny's left arm, but I guess he turned out all right. Lenny, I said all right. Would you just... Attaboy, Lenny. My adoring public, without that 3-week residency and the constant, I'm now realizing, human meat it provided, I am deeply scared of how we are going to survive. But never fear, I have crafted a variety of balloon animals to lure helpless prey into my traps. I'll scrounge us up some grub, Lenny, or my name isn't Barnaby. I had to eat Lenny. The worst part is he wasn't very good. I thought he would taste like chicken, because of his drumsticks. But unfortunately, he only tasted like regret. I made it to Salt Lake City. You might say I got my Cordy steps in. Plus, I figured if anybody could use a family-friendly chuckle, it's the good people of Utah. But there's nobody left now. Nothing but infected, and they are not the laughing sort. More like the biting sort. One of the sneaky ones bit me a few hours ago, and I'll tell you, I do not feel great. I honestly didn't think the infected gave a feck about me, but as it turns out, one infect did. What use is life with no one to hear your jokes? What's the use of Barnaby Bozo in a world like this? What's that? It's a little girl and a gruff man. Those infected are headed right for him. Well, looks like it's time to send in the clown. Hey, infected, you want to hear a joke? What did one clicker say to the other clicker? Oh no, I'm on fire now. How about you infected bastards? Oh God, is that a bloater? Bloater, I hardly know her. Oh no, oh, he's eating my arm. Don't chew on that. That's my funny bone. Lemmy, here I come, you tongueless bastard! Remember me!
Jesus Christ.
He was all alone, huh? When he died.
Looks that way.
But where are all the other clowns? There ought to be clowns.
Well, maybe next year, baby girl. Maybe next year.
So when the game comes back in, we have cut all the way to the state of Wyoming.
Yes.
The seasons are changing.
Yeah, we're in fall, baby.
Yeah. But before we get to that, I want to talk about this show, like we said we would before this break, before this incredibly long break.
Yes.
This break, which has spanned the changing of seasons for ourselves.
Yes.
That's true.
And I want to talk.
We started recording this episode 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the TV show's version of Pittsburgh,
Oh, God, must we?
which is Kansas City, Missouri.
I went to Kansas City on a Friday, and by Saturday, I had learned a thing or two. Because up to then, I didn't have an idea of what the modern world was coming to.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys
Everything
are.
is up to date in Kansas City. They've gone about as far as they can go.
What is
Fur?
what-
Yeah.
Is
Fur
this
as they can go.
is this
Yeah.
a musical? I just
It's Oklahoma.
okay.
Mason wanted to give it more of a swath of America. He did not want to create that sensation that we are just leaving Joel and Ellie for a while. He wants to give the idea that we're kind of following them along the whole trip.
Yes. And also, he wanted to give some foreshadowing.
Yes, and.
He wanted to give some foreshadowing for something perhaps that might happen in season 2.
Okay, so as we said, in Pittsburgh, as they say in jolly old England.
Wrongly, I might add.
We have found ourselves in a place where the military dictatorship has failed.
Yes.
And what has emerged is mostly chaos, despair, destruction.
And some lynchings.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hmm.
Which get a special focus in the 2 episodes, but specifically the second episode
Sorry,
of the 2.
why are there
in
lynchings?
Kansas City. Oh, well, Josh, I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't we cut over to our good friend, New Zealand-based actress Melanie Lynskey. Melanie, what's going on in Kansas City? Oh, she's pretty shy. Okay, so...
Oh, sure. Oh, she's here.
Yes.
Sorry, she was blocked by Will Smith. Hey, Will,
yeah.
can you move for a second? No, don't hit her. Will? She loved G.I. Jane.
Well, now I can't make the G.I. Jane joke, which is good because I didn't have one. We have found ourselves in a Kansas City where, just as in earlier episodes, we had a cold open that was separate from Joel and Ellie. Right?
Yeah.
Even in our episode with Bill, it's just like most of the episode is Bill. We cut away once more from Joel and Ellie to New Zealand actress
Melanie
Lynskey.
Lynskey.
Yeah. And she is now the dictator of the free zone of Kansas City.
The People's Republic of Kansas
She
City.
is not a Firefly. She does not wish to restore the 3 branches
Well, I was
of
going to
government.
ask,
She sure does not.
what exactly is the governmental structure of this state?
It's mob rule.
Okay, so you cannot actually hold people accountable through an orderly legislature.
No.
There's no
it's
courts.
There's
is-
no camerality whatsoever.
There is technically a court system, but she
Yes,
does tell
they
them
have
ahead
a
of time
jail.
that it is rigged.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
they
And
have a
that she
jail
will
where they
kill
don't
them.
just kill people, except they do just kill people.
Yeah.
And she does quips. She does a lot of quips when she talks to people.
And look, I'm trying to be not too mean
This is one
about
of the worst
writing
episodes
of the show.
of TV I've seen this year.
It's so bad. There's a point where she just monologues about being a kid in a tiny little box as thunder rains outside.
Yes. Remember how we talked about with the two brothers in the game, how we don't get a whole lot of their history.
Yeah.
Right? They don't think that just giving history is characterization. We get characterization in the moment that goes forward.
And that makes them interesting because you can infer everything that happened beforehand.
And poor Melanie Linsky, who I think is a tremendous actor.
Oh, yeah.
In most everything else. But she is saddled with an impossible role here because the character can't matter to the greater arc of the story because she wasn't in the game.
Sure.
And the TV series seems so devoted to the game.
Thing about Craig Mazin's show is he has made it an anthology series.
Yeah.
Joel and Ellie are characters who are part of an ensemble where the rest of the ensemble cycles each episode. There is a totally new story being told alongside Joel and Ellie each time.
Yeah.
Does this work? Can it hold the weight of this? No.
Yeah.
It's not built that way.
That's not the point of The Last of Us. Like the game itself is not designed to be vignettes. It's designed to be a journey.
No. And so we get this, we're supposed to get the like beginning, middle, and end of the People's Republic of Kansas City, Missouri.
Yes.
And we get nothing of it whatsoever. We just get this woman who is supposedly like a great thinker, completely undermines her like military leadership, is just like mean to everyone. Like you don't know who she built a coalition with at any point in time.
Right.
And she is nothing but destructive. Right, we open the episode with her just hanging a bunch of people.
This
in a
sounds
mass
insanely
execution.
bad. Why did they do this?
This is getting into part 2 territory a little bit, but it is foreshadowing what happens to societies in the apocalypse. Right, because what happens when oppressed people rise up against the people that are oppressing them is that they themselves
propagate the very same oppression.
The oppressor.
This is what happens when you don't have a devolution of powers to the individual states and then further into the county and municipality level.
Right. This is the breakdown of the liberal order.
Right. Yes. Federalism is the only thing that's keeping us going forward these days.
Right.
And it is
without it, just like without clowns, we are fucked.
Exactly.
But it is, you are looking into the heart of Neil Druckmann's entire philosophy here.
And Craig Mazin.
Yeah, and I guess Craig, I guess. I don't know, Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl, the thing about Chernobyl, the reason why the show works is because he's making what is essentially a very faithful adaptation of a book.
Okay.
He is taking a nonfiction book about the Chernobyl disaster and going point by point with it in a very, I think, understanding and intelligent way.
But I think Chernobyl also is on some level agitprop. Like when you really watch it with a critical eye, the story that it is telling about the Soviet Union, the fall of the Soviet Union, is that a structure that does not exist within sort of a liberal sphere of governance is not one that can be sustainable. Because
and especially with the framing that the final episode gives you of the courtroom scene that's like, well, every country would not have this meltdown problem, just us, because we are Soviets and we are cheap.
Because we all know that no other countries have ever had nuclear reactors melt down.
No.
Yeah, nor any sort of
not within the last decade,
and certainly no train derailments
or other infrastructure issues. And so,
but like Craig Mazin himself says in their little like post-ep, this is why I watched it. He's like, well, the thing is, some revolutions, they just go too far.
Right.
What about this is talking about a revolution going too far? We haven't even gotten an image of what the military dictatorship even looks like, really.
Also, in the QZ in Boston, we do get the idea of like what Fedra looks like when it is in complete control.
We see a guy in a military place in a QZ, but we don't really get a sense of the structure or of the horror
there's
of
nothing,
it.
There's nothing,
all we see is the counterpoint.
No, and there's nothing in The Last of Us, the game, about revolution at all. It is not like the idea of revolution.
Everyone is very tired.
Beyond the existence of the Fireflies, who I guess sort of exist in a state like they want to maybe a more anarchic like way of living, whereas like
no, Josh.
They want
federalism.
I know.
Three branches.
I'm talking about the game right now.
They're big fans of Hamilton.
No, that's in the game.
That's what's in the game. That part is not in the show, actually.
They cut all that from the show.
Right. They're big fans of Lin-Manuel Miranda and his father.
What is The Last of Us but the Hamilton of video games?
That's true. when you look at the shape of like the story that it tells, you know, the government that exists, it's insufficiently liberal, but like there's nothing indicating that there ever was an attempt at some sort of a revolution or that like,
no.
And also it doesn't even seem that the state, like it never even makes explicit what the state is anymore.
Well,
like if the United States is still even a thing that
absolutely
exists.
Well, and that's the thing that makes Pittsburgh work, is that it shows that a violent reaction to a military dictatorship is the only outcome, right? There is no liberalizing that. There is no reforming that. The only thing that can happen is just the more violent and the more brutal and the more clever people are going to win in that situation. That's the only place where you will find that a QZ has been overturned, is a place where the most brutal motherfuckers alive are the ones who have taken it over.
Right.
That is material. That is real. It's none of this like, well, the revolution went too far. They had a lot of great ideas, but then Melanie Linsky's character's dad got killed by the order
so
and the chaos.
Funny. It's so funny to me that Jordan Peterson was an EP on
the
this.
Chinese dick milking machines.
The thing that's missing, though, is any sort of interrogation of class, which is not a surprise.
Yeah.
But
what does it mean? Like, as a class structure in a military dictatorship, what is that? You know, what does it mean to be inside or outside? And they play with it a little bit in the DLC.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
But for the most part, what this is and what it always has been is a Western.
Yes,
sure.
Joel is a cowboy.
Right.
Right. This is The Searchers. This is True Grit. This is Wagon Train. And, you know, it's like, it's just, that's what this story is. It is about untamed wilderness.
Yeah.
And
it's
maybe
about heading west.
Savage, bestial people who are not quite as human as the rest of us.
It's about heading west and finding salvation in Salt Lake City.
Yeah. The most insane thing, or it's not the insane thing about the show, it's the insane thing about me, Brian, that I am fixated on. If you are making this decision and being like, oh yeah, this is where the breaking point happens. They make it past Pittsburgh, whatever, but we're still following them across the whole country. Your point of contact here is not Kansas City. It would be St. Louis.
Yeah.
Because that's how the Mississippi River is very big.
Yes. Yes.
It's known for that.
You know what? There's a musical
whole show
called
about it. Yeah.
Big River.
Yes. With John Goodman. In terms of like what you're doing, they did so much to like recreate Boston in that show in Alberta.
Yeah.
That why wouldn't you do the same thing with St. Louis? Why Kansas City? No one has any associations with Kansas City whatsoever.
Kansas City has tunnels?
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, St. Louis.
And that's the other thing about this horrific episode. They do the little, like, you know, the sewage tunnel outside of town. There's a whole thing about how there's zombies in the tunnels. Yeah. They've cleared the revolution, not the military. The revolution has cleared out all the zombies, but they're actually all just swarming underneath like so many red ants. Then we spend a moment where Joel and Ellie and the gang, they all head down under the ground to the tunnels, and there are no zombies.
No, good.
They even have the moment where, you know, because there's a little trap that's there when you open the door. It doesn't hurt you, but it drops like a bucket and makes noise.
Right. Yeah, the sound trap.
They make a reference to that in the video game where Joel opens the door slightly and waits for a trap to happen and then opens it fully. This is that moment. So much of this show is that moment in the Silent Hill movie where she walks around looking at maps repeatedly. It's like, yes, this is in the game. I mean, don't dramatize this.
Honestly, just listening to this is really pissing me off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that I haven't been watching this show because it just,
those were two very bad episodes, and I think I have a much fonder opinion of the show than Brian does. But these two episodes, that episode is very, very.
I mean,
bad.
I was like, do I just hate everything now? Am I just a huge bitch because I have a podcast? And then I watched Severance, and I was like, oh, I love this show.
Yeah,
Severance rules.
It's like, no, this is just bad, and AJ's wrong.
So we don't get the opportunity in the game going through the famous gateway to the west, Kansas City, Missouri.
No. But
with its famous arch and things of that nature.
but we hit Wyoming, and we make our way to Tommy's Dam. Tommy is
it a goddamn?
It's a goddamn. Tommy is Joel's estranged brother. You know, apparently Tommy didn't want to kill innocent people anymore, and Joel was like, "We gotta kill more innocent people."
Absolutely.
Tommy. And so Tommy left. He's coming back and being like, "You now have to take Ellie." The rest of the way.
This is a great scene because again, we were just going straight from the shock of these two horrible deaths of these characters that we've grown to not only tolerate, but like actually like. Not like Bill, where it's just like Bill's just this fucking guy.
He's just there, yeah.
You know? And is a very well realized character, but it's just like, ugh, like you don't feel like you need to be around him anymore. And then this moment really hurts. And then you're just in this beautiful vista going over a hill and you see this dam, right? This sort of this wonder of the modern world.
It's Jackson, Wyoming, which is just honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It really is that beautiful in real life.
Yep.
Right. And we get this sort of like hope for once, right?
Yeah.
Like Tommy's there and he's restarting the dam so they could have electricity.
Right.
In Jackson.
Yeah, if you've played Fallout New Vegas, it's the same sort of thing.
Yep.
But here's the thing. All hope is illusory.
Yeah. Well, you walk into the dam and you're like, there certainly are a lot of chest-high walls and crates here.
Things I could potentially crouch behind.
And we're walking through here very slowly as if I should learn the environment.
And I think a brilliant game design choice would have been to never have an encounter in this area.
Right.
Yeah. Just be like, well, that's just the size that crates are in this world.
Right.
Yeah. But no, we got to have a shootout.
Now, all of a sudden, the mechanics of the game, the design of the game is running up against the storytelling.
Yeah.
Because when we get to the gate of the dam, the game goes into extreme, like, it shows a lot of like how they sort of have multiple security perimeters.
They've got snipers, they've got scouts. You have to like get the door opened for you, and then all of a sudden there's like 40 people in here,
right?
Who are your enemies?
And it's like the enemies that come in. It's like, well, I guess if there were enough of them, they could have gotten through, but there aren't that many guys.
No, they didn't have the big car from earlier.
That's right.
For them being The Last of Us, there are a lot of them.
Yes.
You don't seem to trust your own storytelling here.
No.
Like it seems like you were like, okay, I need to have an encounter. I agree that like from a game design choice, it would have been funny to lampshade it, but also from a storytelling perspective, let's just have this be a place that's safe.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It feels like it should have
But there
been.
are no safe places.
Right.
We live in a society and there are no safe places.
Which is weird because like from this moment on, you actually run into fewer enemies.
Yeah.
Like it becomes less and less of a problem, except for the segments where you play as Ellie specifically.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of this game, you are running into like much more manageable enemy counts. Stuff that I would have loved to have at the beginning of this game.
Well, and you now you've got enough weapons, and you've built out your skill tree, and you've upgraded your weapons enough that you can actually start doing some pretty serious damage. It's weird.
Yeah.
Well,
you've
now
also
you have
gotten better at the
shivs
game.
you can use 3 times.
And you have the
like,
recipes so that you can keep building them.
You get sharper, hand-to-hand combat.
I mean,
stuff.
that's true, but you've also sort of adapted to the game's rules, I think, a little bit too. Like it has taught you how to play it and you have gotten better at it.
That's true too. I mean, I am never complaining about combat getting easier. I just found out that there are some horror games that just have a mode where you get rid of enemies entirely and it completely ruins the game for most people. That sounds fine to me. Now I'm going to pick up that game and just walk around without any nude men trying to eat me.
The only nude man is going to be me playing that game.
No.
I always play games fully nude.
No.
Yeah, that's what they do in Michigan.
You borrowed my PlayStation for this. Would you put your balls on my PlayStation?
Why would I? Wait, hold on.
How do you play PlayStation?
I want a warm butt.
Oh, okay.
I want a warm little
You're always
tuchus.
sitting on top of
I'm
the console.
always sitting on top of the console.
Did I tell you what I did with my COVID tests when I got sick?
No.
Because the heat was out in my apartment when that happened, and it was incredibly cold, and it was below like the operating temperature of those COVID tests.
Oh no.
So I was lying on the couch with a blanket over me and very feverish. So I just took my box of COVID tests and stuffed them in my crotch for like an hour.
Just to give
and
a
then
little
took
heat.
them out. Yeah. So that they were room temperature or better.
That is as bleak as anything that happens in this game. We Ellie runs away because she thinks that
on a horse. We have a horse. This is
She
also like
gallops away.
one of these great like modern video games things where it's like, oh, now we have another thing.
Yeah.
We have a whole horse mechanic that you use twice.
Oh wait. I'm sorry. What is that? What time is it?
Ooh, yeah.
AJ's Horse Corner. the horses look weird as fuck in this game. They haven't quite figured out how horses move.
Yeah.
So their legs kind of stay frozen, and they just kind of like their bodies stay frozen, and then like their legs just kind of move underneath them. It looks creepy.
It was definitely kind of jarring, coming to this game from Red Dead Redemption 2, which obviously has excellent horse mechanics.
Yeah, which was a couple years later, but they like really made a point to like make those horses look the best they could
and feel like horses. You don't feel like you're riding a horse when you're on this fucking horse.
No, but I also don't the whole time I'm like, why am I on a horse right now? Why is there a horse now at this moment in this game? Why is there a horse? This is a fully linear
in
game.
This moment, I am euphoric, not because of any horse's blessing.
Ooh, yeah.
AJ's Horse Corner.
So there's a weird combat thing. Like Ellie somehow gets past an entire troop of people that you have to fight, which is dumb. And this that whole fight bothered me a lot. It was like it's almost like once having watched the TV show, which removes so much of this action, having it put back in, I did find to be like it made the pacing a lot more annoying because it was just like, oh right, I want to get to the good stuff that I remember, but first I have to do this fight, I guess.
Right.
And you get to the other side.
Where's Melanie Linsky?
Where's Melanie Linsky? And so you reach this ranch that Ellie has found herself in. And Ellie has found a diary where she's just reading about like all the boys and like skirts and like things that like girls would have to worry about before the outbreak.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
There are moments throughout this game which, in general, I did not find the narrative to be particularly impressive. I was frustrated by a lot of the writing. But the acting, the voice acting is so dialed in and so exceptional. I think it really elevates it, genuinely is something different.
And a lot of these scenes are word for word, shot for shot, exactly the same in the show, and they do not land in the same way.
They don't. Not in the same way as the game. No.
Like, whatever we can say about Druckmann as a writer, where he's good but not great, he is a fantastic director.
Yeah.
And you can see just in looking at these moments that should be identical, that should have the same weight to them, and in the TV show just don't have this weight.
Well, you lose the laser focus of the game too.
Yeah. Because we've been spending all of our time with all these other people.
Sure.
Yeah. There's a thing where I watched a lot of the behind the scenes shots of these when they're in their mocap suits and they shot this scene. And what the remake has done is just put more of their performance into the characters. But even in the remaster and on the PS3 version, it is striking how good they are at capturing the acting and the choices of both Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker, who are just absolutely tremendous in this scene.
Yeah. So we find ourselves going to like the local university, which is where Joel is supposed to drop her off.
Go Bighorns.
And then we find that everyone's left. There's some zombies around, but again, not a lot. There's monkeys. The game has monkeys.
Like System Shock
which has a nice little fake out too, and you find
28 days later reference.
Well, they also like seed this idea that monkeys can become infected. That is never capitalized on.
No, it's very strange. It's very weird.
I wanted like I said, System Shock 2 with like the monkeys that can shoot beams at you through their brains, you know?
Well, but here's the thing. Yeah. It actually starts to make a lot more sense once we get into once we get to Salt Lake City. We're going to talk a little bit more about what Druckmann's thesis about humanity is, and the monkey exclusion is going to start to make a shit ton more sense. But all we have to know in this Colorado scene, he goes up, and they find out that the Fireflies have abandoned this station.
Yeah,
and
all the doctors are gone. All the doctors are gone. We do. This also introduces. I think this is the first place. This is certainly the first place I found it where there are like audio logs.
Yeah.
Which I think that the remaster has a lot of fun with. because the PS3 did not have a speaker in its controller. PS4 does, and they actually play the sound through the speaker.
That was cool.
But when it peaks, you get a little bit of reverb on the TV itself.
The other thing I'll say about when you're going around the campus, there's a part where you go down into the dorms. In the dorms, there's spores and, the infection, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. This was
two
one
bloaters down there.
This was one of the only times that I actually had fun playing this game.
Oh, wow. Was in that one. Okay.
Because you can actually
Stealth
sneak
is viable.
past everything.
Stealth is completely viable. You can sneak past a lot. So I was able to get through that thing with a combination of shivving zombies and just straight up sneaking past them.
Yeah.
It was great. And I was like, I wish the rest of the game was this fun mechanically.
Yes.
Yeah. That's also one you are supposed to sneak past because there's two bloaters down there and you do not have the resources.
Let's talk a little bit about we've talked a tiny bit about combat mechanics and sneaking and stuff. Let's talk about what these zombies are. So there are 4 stages of infection.
Right.
And then this is not counting encounters where there are also live people, which basically just behave like live people. They shoot at you and they hit you and stuff.
Yeah.
The zombies, you first have runners who are oftentimes not aware of you as you walk past if you're quiet because they're looking down and holding their heads because, I don't know,
they feel bad.
They feel bad
because the fungus is actually it grows inside your brainstem and then comes out your forehead and then splits your face in two.
Yeah. So on the way
that would be pretty uncomfortable.
On the way to becoming clickers, there's an in between phase that you don't run into until Pittsburgh called sneakers.
Yeah.
Tennis shoes.
Yes.
Tennis shoes.
Yes.
That. I don't know.
In Britain.
Nothing really distinctive about them other than they spawn from nowhere a couple times.
Yeah.
Then you have clickers, which don't have eyes. They are blind.
They use echolocation.
Yeah, but they don't really.
Not really, no.
They make clicking sounds, and if you stand directly in front of them while they're clicking at you, they still don't perceive that you are there.
Yeah.
That's what the echolocation is for.
They just have a lot. They just have really good hearing.
So you have to be quiet around them, and then you can just stick them with a shiv if you're good at what you're doing, and then they will scream. But also the clickers don't hear when another clicker screams.
No.
Very bad. Very bad. I hate it.
No, but also when you're choking out a zombie, if you sneak up on, infected.
They're like one of the runners.
If you choke out an infected
zombie, they're zombies.
If you choke out an infected, they will also scream and hit you a lot.
Yeah,
but nobody hears that.
But nobody hears it.
Very frustrating.
No. I mean, I honestly, that's one of those things that I'm willing to break the reality of the game to have fun.
It's not the reality of the game. It's the rules of the moment.
Oh, sure.
Because it's I want to be sneaky. I want to sneak around. Oh, that thing just screamed. Fuck, I've ruined it.
Well,
right?
and it's also
Hitman has that same trouble where it's it says silent attack on the screen, but you hit someone and it goes pong. You're like, well, that definitely made noise. But it didn't. And it's well, how am I supposed to figure out what actually makes noise and what doesn't?
Well, and this particularly becomes a problem when you are trying to stealth through a section because then maybe Ellie will just randomly decide to fire her gun, and that does make them run towards you. It's just
yeah. There's a whole arc of the story with her and the gun. One final phase of the zombie I want to talk about is from one of the 2 boss fights that happens.
Yes.
The first one in the gym. There is this thing called a bloater, and it's a big boy that you have to shoot a whole bunch. It shoots spores at you. Yeah. Because also this disease is airborne in the game, but not in the show, because I guess Craig Mazin didn't want to show anyone wearing masks on TV.
Yeah, which is also so weird because Ellie was my partner was like, not Ellie in the video game. I have been going around my apartment saying Ellie all week,
Ellie
and they're like it's Studio 60 all over again.
Ellie from the Josie and the Pussycats episode.
Yeah, but they were like, well, of course not. They'd have to wear the masks the entire show. I'm like, oh no, it's only in particular areas where there's spores present.
That's what the mask is.
Well,
that's what the point of the mask is.
Just wear the mask for those sections. I mean, it really doesn't. I don't understand.
And
the
choice. The show decides to build up a whole lot more lore about the fungus. The game is very smart about being there's lore in that there are different kinds of enemies, but those different kinds of enemies only exist to give variety in the encounters.
Yeah,
right?
but don't ask too many questions.
Craig Mazin has built up all this stuff about the fungus being in the ground and then
in the
how you get infected and these things
far
that
more
feel
complicated than it needs to be.
Well, and what's funny is in the show there hasn't been a zombie for the whole back half.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last time they appeared was was when there were the tunnels under the city where there weren't any zombies when they were down there, but then the tank ran into a house.
They were all in one house.
And then there were a bunch of bloaters that came out.
Well, there was one big bloater.
One bloater and a bunch and
like
millions of other zombies.
Swarm. That's probably where the zombie budget went.
Ellie has had this whole thing where she finally gets a gun. You've given her a gun. Now she's there to protect you.
Woke
you
up
get
this
through
morning,
the college.
got herself a gun.
You not only have to fire up a generator, you have to plug it in. So they had to design like a whole physics thing for a cord for one part of the game.
Yeah, which then they perfected.
Yes, with the ropes.
Part 2, they have ropes that every single
every game developer is like, how the fuck did you do this?
How the fuck?
Honestly, part of The Last of Us, the game, like part of the reason that it exists is that it's a really, really pretty tech demo, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Naughty Dog, part of the team of Naughty Dog is called the ICE team, I think, ICE. They're the group that works on the engine.
Okay.
And Naughty Dog's engine tech it's what powers most of the stuff that's on PlayStation in terms of like Sony SCEA's original releases, right? Their first party titles.
Yeah.
And so in much the same way that like if you go see a Pixar movie, you're going to notice there's something interesting new technically there in every movie they release because that's something you can do in RenderMan now. It's very similar to the way that it works with the way that Last of Us and also Last of Us Part 2
that makes sense,
illuminate things that you can do with Sony's game creation tools.
Yeah. But in the context of the game, it's just like, why are you doing this, man? Why did you do this to your employees?
Yeah.
But I mean, this area is mostly kind of empty. You do some stuff, you ride around the horse. It's like a little too big, honestly, because again, it's not open. You still have to go in one direction.
Right. But and there is a lot of things like even in the suburbs and earlier levels where you're wandering around and it gets a little like I'm not 100% sure where to go, even though it is very linear. Like you feel like you have to like
wait for the moment where you can click your right stick and then they'll be like, oh, there's a ladder up there.
Over there. Yeah.
But because it's not clear what things you can interact with.
Yeah.
I was just seeing a thing about the Resident Evil 4 remake last night. They've made every breakable barrel and box and window. It's just like spray painted. It has like yellow X's spray painted on it because I guess they couldn't. Even though you play the original, you know exactly what you can break and what you can't.
Sure.
Right. And I feel like the thing about the remaster that we played for The Last of Us is you could tell where things were and where to go in a way that when I was watching The Last of Us Part 1 all the way through, it's very unclear because everything is so beautiful and rendered so beautifully that it can be very difficult to tell. And that's the same thing.
Yeah, they've tossed out legibility, which is when you make, in some cases, cheap fixes like the spray painted yellow X's.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Naughty Dog, you just don't do any fix.
I mean, there is the thing of pretty much whenever you need to put a ladder up on a wall, there's going to be like a big yellow strip on top of that wall to let you know this is where the ladder goes.
Yeah. Once we've cleared out what we're supposed to do in this level, then some raiders show up.
Because these are different than other raiders.
Yeah.
I guess.
Very, very, very unclear. Like,
this was a weird thing.
Also,
where,
why are these guys even here? Is that explained?
They're just looting.
There's raiding.
We're
doing some raids.
Yeah. Josh, I understand. I get your critique. They're there because you have to kill them.
Right.
Yes,
No, but that's the thing.
It's time to do an encounter now.
What is their incentive to eliminate Joel? In very practical terms, it doesn't make sense.
It could be interesting if they weren't intending to do that, and then you are the aggressor.
That could be interesting if Han shot first, right? But that's not what happens. Instead, it's like, oh, we got to defend ourselves. Whereas I feel like
the NPCs have shown up
in real life, though. I feel like, but again, this is an issue with
you're not gonna people aren't gonna go around and just waste their bullets.
No.
This is a very American way of looking at things. This is a very contemporary way of looking at things. The moment that society as we understand it falls apart, then that just means everybody gets to blasting, reduced to being a complete brute,
which doesn't make sense because that's not how you survive.
And it's also not what happened the first 6 months of the pandemic.
Right.
People came together.
Oh, I killed some people.
Oh, right. Well, you were an immersive theater. The clowns were getting, a little bit too sure of themselves.
Yeah, no, they were getting too funny.
That's actually one of the effects of long COVID they don't talk about is that if you're a clown, you just keep getting funnier.
Yeah, until you die.
Right. Too funny to live.
That's why Louis C.K.'s comeback is so good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The last symptom of before death is the clown starts crying, and they call it the day the clown cried.
And then he sexually harasses a bunch of people for 100 years.
Yeah.
Because Jerry Lewis was very old when he died.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he'll never walk alone.
I do want to talk about that for just a moment.
So he'll never come on the podcast?
Well, that too. I said he'll never walk alone. He famously sung "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the end of his telethons every single year, and he sang very poorly.
It is in general, in times of crisis, what we tend to find when it is a general crisis and people are broadly freaking out. Now, this is different, of course, from when, say, an authoritarian government carries out a campaign of ethnic cleansing or something like that, in which case there is a group in power that is targeting a group that is disempowered. Yeah. But when everybody is broadly on the same level, this doesn't happen. We do not suddenly revert to Rousseau's state of nature and start fucking stabbing each other. That's just not... That doesn't seem to be...
Well, it is an incredibly conservative mindset, which is why I think The Last of Us is actually a beautiful piece of conservative art. That's at the end of the day, that's all it, I mean, that's all it can ever aspire to be. And even for all of its like inclusive stuff, and it does do some very good things, I think, for inclusivity in video games. But because of Druckmann's philosophy, those people can't survive, or they have to become evil.
Well, so then is that really good? Like, is that actually good at all?
I don't think it is. It's interesting too, because I think that Druckmann isn't that smart. I don't think that... I agree with you. It is a piece of conservative art. I don't think it necessarily knows that. I don't think Druckmann is going into that with his own perspective. Rather, he's just going in with... This is sort of the general thing that we've been telling ourselves. Exactly. We grew up in the post-Reagan society.
The way that things are. Yeah. This is capitalist realism, right? There's nothing outside of this context that could ever exist.
And it's funny to be at this point in my life and in my my intellectual development, let's say, where seeing Craig Mazin say, well, sometimes revolutions just go too far is like really offensive to me. Yeah. But it's a very stupid thing to say. It's not like he's really like, this deeply anti-revolutionary man, although like he is certainly a bit of a plague to his union.
Well, in the same way that I don't think
that's just like a dullard's perspective.
I don't think that Chernobyl was supposed to be like... I do think actually that there was probably some way, shape, or form in which the U.S. government was connected and shaped it. But like, I think more broadly though, like Craig Mazin as a guy probably didn't set out to decry socialism and communism broadly. Right. I think it was more just
because I think he also shows the heroism of it. Right. He shows the way the miners and the sacrifices that people make. Yeah.
Instead, it's just more like, sometimes there are systems and, people people are so complicated and we mess up,
It's a very it's just human nature. It's like Todd Phillips doing his little Vanity Fair video where he goes through the first scene of Joker, and the thing that he opens with is, I think that the first shot of a movie can really help set the tone.
Oh, is that true?
It's just like, okay, thanks.
Is this real? Can you say that?
It's like this. You blew my mind.
Wow. When you watch all these behind the scenes stuff with Druckmann and with Naughty Dog, all of them constantly reference Robert McKee.
Yeah.
Like he was their guide. He was their cornerstone. Story was the thing that made The Last of Us happen.
Yeah.
And to that effect, it is like a Robert McKee structured story in that there's actually not a lot of depth to it, but it's effective as fuck.
And Naughty Dog's engine is a storytelling engine. It's very good for simulating camera angles and keeping the textures going right when you're jumping back and forth. Right. And it's good for doing the things where you walk very slowly and have your dialogue fed, and you can comment on a thing that you come across and continue a conversation or not continue the conversation and time things out a certain way so that you can get through the whole thread Sam Lake style before you get back into the combat.
Yeah. And speaking of the combat, the ending of this Colorado University brouhaha finds Joel impaled on a piece of glass, like all the way through.
Not even a piece of glass. It's like a metal spike that he falls onto.
Right. Yeah. And to the point where you're like, he's dead.
Yeah, for sure.
That man's dead.
That is a dead man.
You take a gigantic metal spike straight to, it goes right through his stomach. Like, he's done. He's done.
At a time when there are, as a plot important element, no hospitals.
Right.
Yeah.
And very little in the way of antibiotics.
And he do this incredibly painful walk towards the door where Joel is not doing okay, and Ellie has to like kind of take the reins a little bit to at least get him out of the hospital.
Yeah. Very Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Metal Gear.
And this is where, Josh, you would normally jump straight to winter.
Yeah.
But do
we want to talk about this moment first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what the TV show does too. It decides to just keep this chronological. So in the DLC, Left Behind,
which I did not play.
Yeah. Based on the book.
Yeah.
Everybody gets raptured.
Yeah. You run into Nikolai Carpathia.
Well, poor Riley does.
Yeah. And you are Ellie back when you lived in Boston.
So you're a precocious kid. You are at an orphanage.
Yeah.
And your friend Riley is like, hey, let's go to the mall.
Yeah. And this cross cuts between that and Ellie in the present, taking impaled Joel to a mall.
Yeah.
Where she finds supplies for him in a crashed helicopter
at the top of the mall. So the whole thing is about getting this helicopter down. And and so that's where all the action is. That's where the infected are.
So
that's
this has story sections and combat sections, and they are completely cross-cut. One section does not have any combat. Even when the zombies show up, it's not, you don't get a gun, you don't get any of that.
Right, because you can't change the past.
No.
Right? It is an inevitable thing that Riley will get bit, you as Ellie will get bit, and Riley will turn and you will not.
Yeah.
And that happens in the past. And in the present.
This whole point in the past, you are just walking around the mall and doing mall things with Riley, fun things with your friend. Platonic friend.
Your platonic friend.
And then in the mall, we get pretty clever design, not at the beginning, but the encounters start to be a little bit different. Sometimes you're only fighting like one or two zombies.
Yeah.
And then after your moment in the helicopter, there are raiders that show up that are related to the University of Colorado Raiders.
Yeah.
And you can
We're also related to the Winter Raiders.
Yes.
Who are also related to the Oakland Raiders.
Yes.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Nope. Oakland. I'm an Oakland Raiders guy.
It's going to be the Oakland Raiders versus the San Diego Chargers once again.
Versus the St. Louis Rams. Somehow.
And the Brooklyn Dodgers.
3 teams on a field at a time. Good luck.
Well, and that's actually what happens in the DLC.
Yeah,
it is 3 teams at one time, because you can engineer situations where you get the zombies to attack the Raiders, and then you profit from the chaos that ensues.
Yeah.
It actually becomes a much more dynamic sort of game, and this DLC only came out a year later.
Yeah.
There's clearly like much smarter thought processes that go into it until the final encounter, which just sucks donkey.
Yeah,
dick.
it's really hard.
So bad.
That makes some sense though, that like this is DLC, so they could focus on the actual mechanics of the gameplay design.
Smaller,
the engine
it's more intimate.
And yeah, I mean they've already done all the heavy lifting with the engine and the assets and stuff like that. So now you just focus on how do we make a fun gameplay.
And Riley is a really fun character. I think she's a very good first love. She takes you on this whole journey. You get to imagine an arcade game with her.
Yeah,
and it's really sweet and lovely.
Think when we talk of arcade games that you see them printing their proud hooves in the earth. Something that the show just has them play actual Mortal Kombat.
Things of that nature.
Yeah.
So like in the game, you get the carousel up and running, and Ellie's riding for a bit, and then Riley jumps on and it dies. Like immediately as she jumps on.
Yeah, because there can be no joy in this world. And the one thing I will give Craig Mazin for the show is that he does at every point try to inject more joy.
Yeah, they ride for like a couple minutes, both of them.
Oh, sure.
And there's a similar thing where they go to a photo booth and they take pictures at this photo booth, and then it's like, enter your Facebook information so we can upload it. And she's like, what's a Facebook? What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then they enter it, and then the inkjet printer doesn't work, so they don't get the pictures. In the TV show, because they transplanted the time of the apocalypse to 2003 for some fucking reason.
Because they wanted to make it about the pandemic. in 2020, because now 20 years later is 2023, right? It's modern day
with no masks,
but they didn't want to do the masks. That's what's so baffling to me.
Nothing about it makes sense at all. The one thing that does come from that change in setting is that when they go to the photo booth, it is a photo booth that uses instant film.
Right.
So instead of getting no picture, they get a heavily faded picture that gets pressed out of the machine.
Which is, again, very lovely. And I think it's a very nice diversion.
Brian's camera corner.
It's a very nice diversion from the main plot, but it's basically a filler point where you can be like, okay, so this is how Ellie got good at being a hunter and survivor.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they scrounge around and they play an arcade game that's not working. So they just get it described, and we shoot water guns for a little bit of it.
Yeah.
We go to the Halloween store, put on masks, and then we get to the meat of it, which is that Ellie, who has this very complicated relationship with the Fireflies that the show smartly gets rid of, is in the military. Riley is in the Fireflies. Yeah. Riley is leaving.
Yeah.
They are not compatible. They are built to kill each other. This will not stand.
Oh, it's the Fox and the Hound.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes, it is. Except in this one, the Fox and the Hound smooch.
Yes. So this is 2014, and here is a AAA video game with a gay main character in the DLC,
and not in a sexualized way. This is just queer love.
Yeah.
The gamers didn't like that.
This is an inflection point. This is while Gamergate is happening.
Gamers really, really didn't like that. Yeah. And they super didn't like it in part 2. But
no. Yeah. And people don't like it in the TV show. If you go to the IMDb ratings of the TV show, every episode is like in the 9s, except for the 2 gay episodes, which are in the 7s.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, because for them, it's about plot. You see, and these are pointless little side stories that don't mean anything. It's not Joel moving forward,
as opposed to hanging out with Melanie Linsky in fucking Kansas City.
The plot,
but that has Joel do task.
Shit's always so good.
Joel's so good, he do task.
So people are they get mad because it's gay, and no major release has been this gay aside from Metal Gear Solid, and even then, Snake and Otacon never kiss.
Right.
Now, Snake and Miller do fuck under a cardboard box in one of the PSP spinoffs.
Is that true?
Yes, it is canon. Wow. Big Boss and Master Miller have sex.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
However, it's a PSP spinoff. No one was playing it.
No one's playing it. Yeah, no. And this is an industry where one of the big major gay characters was in Persona 4, also voiced by Troy Baker, named Kanji, who was like, hey, I might be gay. And the game was like, no, no.
Right. Like the only times that you really run into gay characters at this point in time are Japanese games. And oftentimes it's very camp, like Bara characters, like in Choaniki or God Hand, where it's just a game about like, you have the hand of God. Why don't you kill some gay guys with it?
Yeah, no, it's really bad. And so to have this representation is
something.
Unfortunately,
we have to hand it to ISIL
because then Riley gets bitten and
she dies
and dies.
Okay. As will always happen, because that's just how things happen in this game.
Yeah.
So now it's winter, right?
And so in the main game, we have cut from our regular cut to black to a bunny getting shot with an arrow. Now we have a hunting mechanic.
Yeah, because why not?
Now Ellie is hunting a big buck.
Again,
she's a big buck hunter.
She manages to fell the buck, but that comes with the consequence of meeting a man named David, who is played by Nolan North. He of Drake fame, of Nathan Drake in the Uncharted games. Completely unrecognizable in terms of both character design and voice.
I wouldn't have known.
The thing about this too is like, this is such a weird turn because it just goes on for a bit, but it's not like all that much happens. I mean,
this is where the game goes into anthology mode.
Yeah.
This whole section is just like a side story.
We had to have cannibals. We had to have some cannibals.
Well, because Ellie's whole thing is, she's got to get out there now as sort of the hunter, right? And she's got to go and get supplies because Joel is still in a room somewhere freezing his ass off.
Yeah.
So she's got to go get provisions. She's got to go find medicine. And so when she comes across Dave, is that his name?
David. Yes.
Full name.
He's like, oh, well, we've got a group and we have all the supplies you need, women and children. And
David and James. I always want to say it's David and Jonathan, but it's David and James.
James, who in the TV show is played by Troy Baker.
So they did the inside joke thing for both.
So here we go, right? Like now we've got to fight off a group of zombies who are trying to descend on the cabin, and
this is where I quit the game a decade ago and never picked it back up.
That horde is really tough.
This part sucks. Playing as Ellie is fucking terrible.
It's annoying.
And they decide to give, like, this is the hardest combat in the game, even if you were Joel.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have to do it as Ellie, who doesn't have any of the weapons that you have. They did this in Final Fantasy 15 too. It's like, oh, well, we've empowered you. Now we have to disempower you. Or in BioShock, where it's like, now you have to do an escort mission and you are in the Big Daddy suit.
Now you have this little pocket knife.
Yeah. And the knife is also a replacement for planks or machetes or anything that you can pick up.
And so you lose your ability to bludgeon guys to death. You lose your ability to sneak up behind them and shank them.
You lose your reach. You can't reach as far because the rest of the game doesn't work like this. The rest of the game is not just sit in a room and wait for the timer to run out.
It's also it's kind of trying to do the thing of Max Payne 2, right? Where you were Max, now you're Mona. But the thing is, playing as Mona is not really any mechanically different from playing as Max. No. Whereas, it does make sense to have Ellie play differently. She should feel different, but it shouldn't be this fucking annoying.
It should also be like she has advantages that Joel doesn't have. In one case, she doesn't have to pick up planks. But on the other hand, she is immune. So the mechanic of having a zombie bite you, which gives you an instant game over no matter where your health is at, should be gone from the equation.
Right.
When you are playing as Ellie.
Right, but she can still die because the infected can like rip out her throat.
But that's bad design.
I agree.
A better design is to make the immunity actually matter in the game.
Interesting.
Because you're right that he could physically overpower her, but you should make a new choice.
And you get another chance when you're bit,
and that's actually something they do cover in the second second game a lot better because you play as Ellie a lot in part 2.
But I thought you only played as Joel. That's what the director told me.
Yeah,
in part 2.
Yeah, in part 2. This section is difficult. It's difficult, lemon difficult. There's no really getting around that. But it does force you to try and bond with David, even though he speaks like this the whole time, so you know he's gonna fucking kill you.
But that's the thing about the character of David and just the way this whole characterization plays out is I was like, come on, really? We're
so
doing
broad.
this? We're doing this weird, broad guy who is maybe a pedophile and also a cannibal and also a sadist and maybe also a weirdo raper guy. Like,
guess what? In the TV show, there's no maybe.
Yeah, I know. The show, they make it incredibly explicit that he is a pedophile. And there is only one, I think there's a reference, it's like he's one of David's toys now or one of David's girls now that's thrown out there. So there is sort of an it's much more implied that he's a pedophile, but the intention was always that he is.
But it's just like, this to me is such a ham-fisted, like, first of all,
no, but this is humanity, Josh.
I know it is. This is, first of all, a stupid trope. Like, this is not an interesting choice. I want a new choice. Yeah, but secondly, I just find this to be tedious from a storytelling perspective because it's like, this is not doing anything. You are suddenly injecting peril in a way that isn't really germane to the story that we've been telling so far. And also, I have no investment in this bad guy. And also, I know he's not going to win because
there's a certain, I have this thing where like, okay, so if she's in the winter town, right, and Joel's not there, I need David to be a character that offers her something that is equally tempting than Joel.
Yes.
So David's like, hey, what if like they have electricity? What if they have an arcade machine?
Right.
What if this town is idyllic and perfect except that they eat people?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, but like maybe I do want to stay here. But then that's the thing that's just like
you wouldn't have to eat people if you didn't want to. But like that's
we will.
Yeah, and even then it's like this is not a game about Ellie's choice. It's actually a game about Joel's choice. Very specifically, it is about building this relationship and you lose something by not having the two of them together.
Yeah.
Right. You are splitting them apart to maybe show why they need each other or something, but you don't need to do it in this way. And you don't need to. It feels like a distraction.
Yeah,
I'm becoming a plot guy. You know, it feels like we're getting close enough to the end that we want to draw the straight line. Once we get to Salt Lake City, it is a straight line. But like we are getting to this point where let's just get there already.
Well, I would argue that Ellie does need a moment of where she's brought to her lowest so that we can get the highs of Salt Lake City. Like something bad does need to happen to Ellie, or she has to make a choice that is
in order to
detrimental.
To throw people off the scent. You mean?
No,
because Salt Lake City
in order
bad.
to like have a true bonding moment, to have the scene with the giraffe mean anything, I think you need to have at least one moment where where she loses herself. Where we see her lose herself, which she does in this.
We find ourselves in this like resort place that actually has some fun stealth mechanics to it because you have the bow and arrow and you can sneak around quite a bit.
Yeah.
And take people out silently.
Well, especially because there's a blizzard outside. I'm actually I always marvel at the level design of this because no matter how lost I get, I end up where I need to go.
This manages to funnel you in a very clever way.
It's very clever. Yeah.
It's annoyingly long though.
It is very long, especially because you are then also cutting back to Joel.
You have to do it as Ellie, and then you have to do it as, again as Joel, and just
more
like
horse stuff.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
It's also the boss battle with David.
There is. Yeah, this is a game that doesn't need proves early on it doesn't need a boss battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it has one, and it's like okay.
It was 2013. It was the style at the time.
It is bold that it gives you 2 bosses. And nothing more. It doesn't end with a boss battle.
No, it sure doesn't.
It gives you a boss towards the beginning and a boss towards the end, but it is a very annoying boss battle.
So Ellie ends up, fighting David in this saloon that's burning down. Joel arrives
at the
in
Texas
the nick
Roadhouse,
of time.
And you'd have to do this really annoying thing where you just throw a bottle at him and then run up and stab him.
Yep.
And then you do that like 5 times.
And Joel pulls Ellie off of him physically and takes her outside and holds her and says it's going to be all right. And specifically, he calls her baby girl.
Yes. Yeah.
And I cry every single time, and because I'm a sucker for that
This is where
shit.
it's like, oh, it's his daughter.
Yeah.
She's his daughter
and
now.
he's finally opening up.
I'm your pa.
He's finally opening up after all these years of keeping it buried. Of literally,
and beyond opening up, he has meaning. Which again, the show, I wish, but it draws that idea of like you need meaning, right? They give Bill meaning at the end of it.
Yeah.
Joel has someone that he can attach to again, that he has meaning with.
And this is a character who has a broken watch that he wears all the time with a bullet hole in it. Time is literally stopped for him. And for the first
except
time,
for twice a day.
You hear, shut up. And for the first time, you hear the seconds hand tick again. Like you finally feel Joel come back, which means that now we go to Salt Lake City. And so there's a thing that, and when you get to Salt Lake, I think it's only on survivor mode. I don't think either of you got this, but you are actually able to visit the Great Salt Lake, and it's just on the edges of it. There are 3 skeletons of the Brigham Young money guys. And they're holding a sign that says "Told you so."
Yeah. Just who is this extraordinarily tall skeleton? It's like his name was Greg.
You just uncover a little note where he's like, I fucking hate snow.
Here's the thing.
I just want the snow to fucking end.
Here's the thing. There are 2 skeletons. Greg, nowhere to be seen. He survived. It's Gregstown.
It's another skeleton on a bike somewhere.
Gregstown.
Hey, Greg, hope you're enjoying this extended riff on your life.
So but you do come across like an RV. There's like a family that's like outside of Salt Lake City and they die on the road.
Yeah.
But like this is a gorgeous part of the game. Like
Yeah,
none of
looks
the rest of the game looks
magnificent.
anywhere near this good. They understood the value of allocating resources into really beautifying this area. Also, I mean, foliage. It does foliage well, this engine. And it's the first time you really see it.
Well, and it's also this thing of like the shot opens with Ellie staring at an outline of a deer that's on the side of this road. And, she's just killed someone incredibly violently. Like she's let out a part of herself and she killed a deer. But it's like looking at the deer and instantly reminds her of like, as a hunter, like she's trying to figure out like, is the death that I did justified? Because I was trying to survive, and the way that killing the deer was how I was trying to survive. But she's not in a good place.
Right.
Joel is trying to banter with her.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, tell me one of your dumb puns that you always read from your book. But she's not having any of it. She just seems like really, really spaced out.
I was really impressed with the non-explicit storytelling of letting her sit in silence. It's something that you really notice because of the fact that the dialogue before this point, you are hearing that banter and that back and forth, and all of a sudden it is missing, and you notice the absence.
Yeah.
You go to like boost Ellie up.
It says like
You
press
push
triangle,
triangle.
and he does the thing, and wherever she is, she spawns like immediately next to you and climbs up, right? Like it's always happens. And then So, and the camera moves in closer and everything, and it goes close up, and he goes, like, his eyebrows raised, and he's like, Ellie, you know.
And she's sitting over on the bench. She doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. And I honestly, even talking about the moment gives me chills. I don't know why it's so effective, but it's just like, it's so surprising.
In the same way that having, if, like I said with the dam, if they had had chest high walls and no combat.
Yeah,
right.
It's
like,
because it's using the mechanics of the game to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's the thing that you can only do in games. I know I sound like a broken record here.
And it does so by subverting the mechanic itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And I can't imagine there being that feeling watching this as a TV show, even though we're not watching the finale, and this moment is going to be in that.
Thankfully, the TV show has not had 100 moments of Joel boosting Ellie.
You actually have to press the triangle button while you're watching the show.
He's taking off his backpack and crafting things and putting it back on.
It's like those old Laserdisc like games where you have to push the button in order to resume the actual video.
Otherwise, Joel just turns into a skeleton.
Honestly, if they put that in the show, I'll forgive it everything else. But Ellie kind of like, you know, she's like, fine, okay. And she gets boosted up and she's about to drop you the ladder, but she goes, holy shit. And she just kind of throws the ladder and Joel's like, oh shit, what? Ellie, what? And he pulls at the ladder and you're like, okay, shit, we're going into an encounter. Like it's very early on.
Yeah.
You try and run after her and she's like, look, and you see this like shadow pass by the window, but she doesn't seem scared by it.
Yeah.
And this music starts building in the background. This like actually like fully orchestrated, beautiful, natural like tones. And you make your way into a room and there's this giraffe sticking his head through the window.
Yeah.
And Joel's like, well, come on, Ellie, you can pet it. And she's like, I don't want to pet that thing. It's a fun. I mean, giraffes are huge, right? But he's like, no, it's okay. Come on. And they pet this giraffe. And this is the scene that everyone talks about when they leave them. This is the scene that sticks with you.
So let me tell you something for a second here.
Yeah.
I didn't see the giraffe.
Really?
What?
So this game, like I said, it does everything very linear, right? It channels you into where the thing is. There's never a second thing to look at. But the game makes you have to scrounge and loot things and look around and go off the critical path. And so you always have to do that stupid thing in so many games where it's like, is this the critical path or is this thing over here the critical path? Because then I have to go off the non-critical one first to find the upgrade shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I saw Ellie run that way and I said, oh, I'm not going to follow her just yet because I see this pathway going up these stairs. And so I ran into the room where the giraffe would have been, but I got there before it would have shown up, got all the way to the roof and just ended the scene with the giraffes all the way outside.
Oh, no.
So this game fucks up that moment for a number of players.
Interesting.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
Because of the way that it cannot deliver story beats in a way that is compatible with the gameplay at all times. It's the same thing as being in the truck and looking behind or left or right. You're doing the thing the game has conditioned you to do, and it destroys a moment for you.
I mean, I did experience the moment. I knew this was coming because I knew about the fucking giraffe thing because it is the iconic moment from the game. And it's really pretty beautiful. One thing we haven't talked about much is the sound design of this game. And you mentioned the music. I mean, this is one of those moments where it all just kind of comes together.
Yeah. For some people and not others.
But because it is again a technical showcase as much as it is a story moment. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. It's an impressive technical showcase, and it really comes together. And there's something cool too about the fact that like Ellie there's a real possibility she wouldn't even know what a giraffe is.
And that there's a herd of them. There's a whole herd of giraffes. You have this wonderful conversation where Joel's like, there's still time to go back.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to do this. We can just go live. There's probably a dozen other people out there, you know, with immunity like
which is a turn for Joel, because that was not the case before. He was going to see this
Gotta get the job done.
That was it. That's all this ever was for him.
But also the nature of the job itself has changed too, because you know, it is no longer something that he's doing for the sake of completing the mission and getting the guns or whatever. That doesn't matter anymore at all.
Right.
Like for a while it was just, I need to complete this for the sake of doing it. Now it's, I am doing this not so much for me anymore, but for her. Do it for her. Like, like the Simpsons.
What's interesting about the game is how little the consideration of the whole world comes into this. Joel never really weighs the option of how he has to, like, it comes up at the beginning. You have to do this.
And because Tess is a believer in that.
Yeah.
That's Tess's whole thing, is she's just like, this could be an end for this. We could finally do some good after years of that. But
it's
Joel
not
is
that
seeing
for
the
Joel.
heart of darkness.
Yeah.
Joel is seeing the heart of humanity and is vile and black. So fuck them.
This comes back to the fact that this is an inherently conservative.
Yeah.
Like the worldview of this game is conservative, which is so interesting because we talk about reactionary culture and reactionary narratives. I would argue, and this is where, because we move in here now to the last bit, which is we go to the hospital.
Because Ellie's argument is that it can't have all been for nothing.
Right.
Yeah. You have a little straightaway with some zombies in it. And you have a flamethrower that you have.
It's the final zombie boss.
It's so annoying.
Sorry, the final infected
it's
boss
not
battle.
annoying if you use the flamethrower, which you didn't use up until this point. You don't know how to use because the game doesn't give you any opportunities for it.
I missed it on this run. I forgot it was in the university and I missed it.
That's okay. I missed the giraffe.
But that's
more important than the
we
flamethrower.
do get to the hospital now where they've been doing all of the research, and here all of a sudden Joel comes across fucking what's her name from the beginning.
Yeah.
And
the Firefly lady.
Firefly lady.
Marlene. She made her way across the country with a stomach wound that she got back in the QZ. She lost all of her people along the way. She is the sole survivor. She's known Ellie since she was a kid, and she's had to make a deeply terrible choice.
Yeah.
And now what they're doing is they are prepping Ellie for surgery because they're basically going to lobotomize her and kill her.
Because the cordyceps fungus in her head has mutated.
Right.
So and that's why she's immune.
Yeah. So they say that they have to, in order to get the fungus, they have to just cut her open, take her brain out, killing her in order to harvest this in some way to make a vaccine, which is not really how vaccines work.
Yeah. So you said
two,
before,
it's bad science. You don't really want to be killing your hosts because then you'd want to maybe cultivate in some way.
Right. So it's brain surgery that they need to take out. Yeah.
Right. I don't think this is bad storytelling. I think this is good storytelling because I think that there are very many doctors who would throw away the morality of the situation.
Sure.
And a lot of times the less ethical solution may seem like the right one if you're not thinking it through.
Right.
But it's actually scientifically much more of a problem. We saw this with the AIDS crisis where they were like, well, we have to have a control group that gets a placebo.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, no, this is AIDS. You don't just give people sugar pills. They have AIDS. It's killing them.
Right.
And we've found ways to study antiretrovirals without giving people just sugar pills, right? Like we people can just live with HIV now.
Yeah.
And there are some documents that you come across in the hospital that they don't quite say exactly what's going on, and I think that's where this game gets interesting.
Right.
Also in the nature of the thing that Joel tells Ellie later, it's like they have already been working on bodies.
Yes.
Of infected people, maybe even immune people. It is not entirely clear on whether Ellie is the first immune person to come into the hospital.
There's pocket recorders that are sort of littered all over the place.
But it's not explicit either way.
Right.
And Joel hears what is going to be planned because Marlene decides against counsel, against her orders to tell Joel because she believes in this cause so dearly that she's like, all I have to do is tell him what's up.
He's the only one who will understand.
He will understand. He knows what this all is about.
Yeah.
He's not sympathetic to her.
No.
To her idea. And he goes and he murders everyone in the hospital.
Yep. And he grabs Ellie and he runs.
And this is a section that I think would have been even more effective. And I think they probably didn't do it because of another game, specifically Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, doing the mission No Russian, where you just do a mass shooting at an airport.
Right.
I feel like they were avoiding comparison to that specific thing, but this moment feels like it should have just been no combat, especially once you get the assault rifle, which doesn't. I feel like that should just be a murder machine, and it kind of isn't.
It's not. It takes. It's like the Klob from GoldenEye. It takes so many hits to down somebody.
Like
this, they're wearing like full body armor.
I think this moment would be stronger if it's just like you're just fucking killing people.
Yeah.
And then you go into the hospital room and you kill 3 innocent people.
Yes.
I only killed 1.
You only have to kill the one?
Yeah, you only have to kill
the surgeon.
Oh,
you're forced to kill the surgeon for reasons that will become very clear.
Yeah, it doesn't really force your hand. It's just like you can't get the pick up Ellie button without killing him.
Right.
Yeah. And it's hard because you can't leave the other two to survive. Because they were not originally planning for there to be a part 2.
Sure. And so you pick up Ellie, you take her out. There is a scene with Firefly Lady down in the basement. There's a whole thing again, which is just very, very unclear, where it's like she basically was Ellie's mother, like helped raise her.
Yeah.
And you just kill her. You know, she thinks falsely in this world of the cordyceps epidemic that reason and logic will prevail. And Joel understands in the world that you have seen in this game that the only thing is that gets you anything is the attribution, is the
use of force,
is the application of violence.
Yes.
And that's all there is.
And actually, you don't, when you say you do it, you yourself as a player
you don't
get
kill
to do
her.
it. You watch Joel do it.
You kill the doctor, but you don't kill her.
Yeah.
That happens in a cutscene.
Yeah.
And
because
then
there's a false ending where it's like, oh, maybe he like listened, because Marlene's like, listen, this doesn't, you can still return her and this can still be fine.
Yeah, cross cuts.
And we cross cut to him driving on the road, and Ellie wakes up in his back seat.
Turns out there's a whole lot more like you, Ellie. People that are immune. It's dozens, actually. Ain't done 'em a damn bit of good, neither. They've stopped looking for a cure.
I cut it out of this episode, but we had a little bit of a disagreement as to whether there were other immune people or not, which is why we settled on it's unclear whether there are other immune people or not. But this moment is like not in the way that I read it, not a total lie.
Oh, interesting.
Is that he sees that there were other immune people and this procedure didn't fucking work. They didn't come up with an answer yet, so why would sacrificing this child be of any use to this project at all?
Yeah, I mean that makes Joel a lot more right.
Yeah,
in a way that I don't.
Yeah, I didn't read it that way.
I feel like the whole thing and what I think the magic trick of the game is
he's still murdered a bunch of people and lied to her about it.
Yeah.
But he also sees that like this is not necessary. Like if Joel didn't do that, the future that comes after that is not the world is saved. I feel like the game is pretty settled on that no matter what.
Right? Yeah. But it would become, I think, better. Maybe.
I
don't know.
Or she would just be a dead kid.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And I think the magic trick of the game is that it actually does convince you that Joel is, you understand why Joel does it.
Yes.
I completely.
Even though I don't know, like, I guess the question is, are you supposed to agree with Joel or not? Or does the game not care? I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether the game wants you to agree with Joel.
I think the game wants you to side with Ellie because that's the last person that we're in.
Sure. I mean, I can't put myself back into 2013 and remember like all of the discourse around what we're supposed to be doing here, but it is supposed to be like, here's our big, morally ambiguous moment.
Right.
Here is a game that has a moral ambiguity.
But that's the thing, right?
Without a choice.
Stuff that presents moral ambiguity usually is actually taking a side and only pretending to be morally ambiguous. Like, let's be real. And generally speaking, going back again to like the nature of reactionary narratives, more often than not, what they tend to do is they present sort of this false moral ambivalence or moral ambiguity for the sake of making you think, well, of course there's not really much ambiguity here. Of course we should do this specific thing. Of course Joel was right. And I personally feel like that's where we end up landing. That's how I felt, at least. I felt a little bit manipulated.
I mean, I feel like it still leaves us with a point where Joel sort of damns his soul, where it's like, because we then have an epilogue where you just walk through some woods for a minute. Yeah. And then
as
Ellie asks him, were you telling me the truth earlier?
Swear to me that what you said about the Fireflies is true. And she actually goes through a whole thing where she's just like, she names all the people that have died.
Including Riley. It's setting up the DLC.
Setting up Riley was the first person where she got it. And then Tess, and she's just like, I've just been waiting for my turn.
Yeah.
So you have to swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
And it's not. Everything he has said is not true.
Yeah. And there's this beautiful moment of acting that it gives me chills just thinking about it. But Joel has a thing where he's just like, those deaths are not on you. You were surviving. And the thing you have to do in this world is find something to fight for. And Troy Baker grabs his wrist and his thumb just like absent-mindedly like brushes over his broken watch. And it's not, it's an acting choice that doesn't look conscious. Like, it's just, he's been in this role as Joel for this long that it's just something that, of course, he's going to think about Sarah unconsciously.
Well, and
he swears he didn't do it.
That's where this game falls, right? That's where this game falls. It's not like Joel finds that the only meaning to have in this world is devoid of any cause. You cannot be part of anything. You cannot participate in anything. You cannot push towards any goal in the future. All you have is the nuclear family. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You stand your ground. You castle doctrine. You have your gun. You have your kid. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he swears that everything he said was true. And Ellie looks at him and says, okay. And that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
And the look on her face is either, I mean, you can interpret it however you want, but for me, it was like, it was her seeing the monster for the first time. Her seeing like, oh no, this person I put so much trust in has lied to me. And there's only one way that could have gone if we're standing here and we're alive. And it's harrowing. It's a harrowing, beautifully ambiguous ending that I wish had just stayed the ending.
I mean, it's a really good ending. Like, I was so impressed. Like, the way that it was like that, bam, like credits. It just,
there is so much power in that cut.
Yes.
In the decision that they make to just be like, we're done with this moment.
That's it.
No more talking.
What did we think of the quote greatest video game story ever told?
It's not.
It's fine. It's got its moments, I guess, but like,
yes,
it's no BioShock.
Wow.
It's honestly like, it's
wow.
No jokes here. Like, where I actually think I find it is the writing is oftentimes pretty thin. There are a few good moments. There are a few interesting characters who I really found myself grabbing onto. Yeah. And I think that the thing that makes this game interesting, the reason that I think people still talk about it, the reason it was able to get a TV show, is that the way that it lingers in certain moments leaves you with impressions and memories that don't go away.
Yeah.
And I think that oftentimes for people, what you remember with the game, what I remember with the game anyway, a game that I really enjoy is how it left me feeling.
Yeah.
I didn't feel very much playing this game.
Wow.
And that's just different, obviously, from your experience. You know, you talked about you really were compelled. You cried. I found it impressive. I didn't feel much. It didn't, other than a couple of the moments acting wise that I thought were some very strong choices were made.
Yeah.
Thought it was a pretty fine narrative. You know,
strong direction.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I feel like talking about Bill's story, I think there's an interesting story behind it with the two characters and the hatred and everything like that. I don't think it's told well at all. You just like end up in a house after getting out of that city and there just happens to be a guy hanging there and it just happens to be Bill's partner. And it's like, okay, cool. Like there's only one outcome for everyone and it's just kill yourself all the time.
That's the thing that I think frustrated me the most is like, you need to point to something, anything.
You want to do this, like this says a lot about our society thing, but they have no idea how society is actually built at any point. Yeah. Because it's a game where you just shoot people all the time, just like Uncharted.
And also having now been through a pandemic, which was obviously we're still
it's over now.
It's over.
Broadway's back.
Yeah, Broadway's back.
You know,
off Broadway's back. Off Broadway's back.
It's not as if it really indicates. I think it doesn't. To me, it doesn't point to truth, and that's the thing. That at least overall, there are moments of truth in the relationship between Joel and Ellie that I found compelling.
Yeah.
But overall, as a work, it really, really frustrated me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, is that Druckmann does point to something, but I think he kind of does it accidentally. Mankind is broken and terrible and heartless and will kill each other at the drop of a hat. But you know what's beautiful and what's gorgeous and what's enduring and will always bounce back? Nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's why the monkeys can't be infected.
Yep.
It's why the giraffes aren't infected.
Sure.
It's because nature is an inherent good, and it reclaiming the city is purging the world of the virus and fungus that is us. That is the last of us.
And you, our dear listeners, you can reclaim the beauty against the virus and the fungus of the modern world by heading on over to patreon.com/worstofall and maybe checking us out at the $5 or even the $10 tier. At $5, you get fancy movie time. You get our 2 premium episodes a month. With $10 a month, you'll get our monthly Ladscast, an unedited shoot the shit podcast that we do once a month. And the more money we make, the more that we can offer you. We are close to getting 500 patrons, which means that legs will be coming soon.
Legs are coming soon.
Just like Facebook, Meta got legs, we'll have legs too. It's going to be
our legs will work.
Yes, and we're really hoping right now that all the money that we haven't cashed out from Patreon is not currently in the Silicon Valley Bank situation.
We'll find out. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll sure find out.
But there's one thing I think to walk away from with The Last of Us. And that is, we were told so many times as this game came out, not just in the hype machine leading up to it, but in the hype machine that followed, that this is a unique story. This is the best story. This is a story that has not been told. And it's just every zombie movie. It's just every zombie movie that came out in the last 20 years specifically. It hits all the same beats. It has all the same characters, but it also does true grit in the middle of it.
Sure.
Because all of this is really, and always has been in these more contemporary stories, it's always been a Western. Yeah. It's always been this story about like America and Manifest Destiny and white culture.
Yes.
Purifying and killing and burning and maybe doing some some ambiguous things like John Wayne and the Searchers. But at the end of the day, it's all still John Wayne.
Yes.
Who is cool and great. My friend, he is a movie star. And yet...
there's an airport named after him.
Fucking just look up the actual John Wayne and see any of his opinions and realize this is just some out-of-touch fucking movie star who believes in the movies that he's made as though they are some sort of real reality and not just the product of 200 years of propaganda that we have built for the foundation of this country.
Yes.
And even this game, with its moral ambiguity around the killing of the hospital workers and everything that's going to follow in the second game, cannot escape the fact that it is still sucking America's big, fat, fungus-riddled hog. I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. See you next week.